Hold on, give me 1 second. Oh yeah, here we go.
Okay. All right. Your eyes do not deceive you. This is a J&J mid-season finale part 3. Yes, I did a third part. Of course, Joskin is doing her vacationing with her fiance. But the reason why part 3 was supposed to be done because the guest I have here was supposed to be on the mid-season finale part 2 with a big, large panel. Unfortunately, Skype did not give her the message on time. For some odd reason, Skype decided not to post my messages, even though I was actually connected to the internet. It turns out that I didn't update something, which I didn't know I had to do manually. I keep it automatically, so when I click on, it's already there. But that something happened where I had to do it manually, and you got my message a little bit too late. But you are here. I'm glad you're here. Because there's a lot of stuff I did want to talk about that I didn't get a chance to do in the last episode, and it involving, family programming, old, new, what to expect for 2016 and 17. A lot of people are excited about a lot of things, of course, especially with connecting with the Star Wars canon. A lot of people are concerned about cartoon shows and family shows that's connected to another movie that which we'll talk a little bit about. But just in family shows, period, including a show that I'm kind of surprised Fox has decided to dive in a little bit. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to keep the box office, depending how much time we have, I'm going to keep the box office results live because that's not really the focus of the show today. But just basically just to focus on family programming, what they're going to come here, what we should be expecting from family shows moving forward from the 2016-2017 edition. I just want to do a side note. Originally, we did have another guest, White Boy. Taylor White was supposed to join us, but unfortunately, something that came up that he needed attention elsewhere. So I hope everything is working out with him and his family. Just know you're in my thoughts, my friend. So I hope everything works out all right. I haven't heard from you from a bit, but I pretty much knew what it was. But you're here, Patricia, and the first thing I gotta ask is how you doing, and how is Old School Lane holding up for you?
I've been doing okay, and Old School Lane has been holding up very well, thank you.
All right, and right now there's been a lot of changes going on, especially with your show, especially with the Matter Expression, and are we expecting more changes down the road from here on out?
Yeah, there's always some new opportunities to change and to do experimentations with other stuff. So, yeah, I mean, we will do some more stuff, expand more, but at the same time, we'll keep the core of what made Old School Lane what it is.
Which brings me to why I wanted to ask a few questions about the upcoming family programming and some of the controversy surrounding some of the choices. You obviously follow a lot of family shows. You follow a lot of the shows from Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, and it's just abroad. Do you have any strong feelings of what 2016, 2017 have in store, especially some of the shows that actually, despite some of the poor ratings, are actually getting another shot, especially from Netflix? Do you feel a little worried that some of these shows may be, from what the many fans have been saying, down talking to the audience instead of being more mature?
Well, that is a really hard question, considering that, media is constantly changing all the time. When it comes to family programming, focus groups come in as like, we have to do shows like this, or we have to do shows like that, and it's either one of many directions that they can be able to pull it off at. And it's funny because I just did a podcast not too long ago with my friends, and we were talking about how the shows back then are completely different from the shows now, and there's a lot of focus groups talking about we have to do it to this demographic as opposed to creator freedom. And there's a lot more programs nowadays that if you want to have a show this way, you either have to do it independently or you have to do it on Netflix or something like that.
So there's still a group that's trying to say that you can't really be too out there with the subject matters in hand, and that you need to really go there but don't go there kind of approach. Do you think that's been interfering with a lot of shows that could have probably been good? Have they actually given the freedom range to actually not only be entertaining but also bring subject matters that relates to today's world that we live in?
Yeah, pretty much. But I think that people have always wanted to see shows that focus on major demographics. Like it can cater to like multiple ages, like for kids, teenagers, adults. But it depends on where you look because with family shows, whether it be from like Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network or even on Netflix or Amazon or something like that, there's it's funny because there's more variety, but at the same time there's more shows that lean towards one demographic or another. So I think there's more that we can be able to see. It's just where you find it.
So, in your opinion, do you think that Netflix is justified of bringing Fuller House back for another season, even though there's a lot of people saying they don't even want to see another season of Fuller House?
Yeah, I I mean I've seen a few episodes of Fuller House, and I get it. Some people want to have that nostalgic connection, and some people are just saying like Fuller House just doesn't need to exist because it's so just so blasé and whatever. But I mean, I guess it depends on Netflix viewers if they really do have a nostalgic connection to Full House. But I mean, if it doesn't get picked up, then it's not the end of the world for me. But I mean, we'll just see. I mean, there have been lots of other shows that have branched out into his nostalgia that started, like a little, throwback, and then all of a sudden, people want more of it, like TMNT. But with TMNT, it's able to say, you know what, let's do some creative new things to this 30-year-old franchise, as opposed to like in Fuller House, in which it plays it safe, but maybe that's what people wanted to see. So, I mean, I think that for people, we sometimes stay safe with what we want, but at the same time, we want creativity. We want to see something new, and we want to see something exciting. So, with family-oriented programs, you have something like Stranger Things come out on Netflix, and or maybe along the lines of you know, there's an announcement about like Gilmore Girls is getting a revival. So I guess it depends on if Fuller House is able to gravitate towards the people who want to see it. But at the same time, it's like, we want to see something safe, but at the same time, we want to venture out into new things.
Now, here's the thing that's funny about it is that again, I was like kind of surprised they actually even went that route. I know Bob Saget wanted it. I know he was happy that they actually done it. But I looked at Full House and I remember watching it, but I don't remember a single episode. And it's like one of those shows that actually grabbed to me. It was like one of those shows that came out at a time where there was really nothing good on television, and that really helped it. Um, now, that you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Sorry, I thought it sounded like I had a full house today. Um, and with Fuller House, I think the thing that works to the advantage and disadvantage is that it's not traditional episodes. We have to wait next week to watch the episode. Next week, you just watch the second episode right away.
That is true, yeah. Our day and age, when it comes to technology, is able to get episodes much quicker. I mean, if you miss an episode, then, too bad for you, unless your friend recorded it on VHS, or if there's a rerun, you're not going to be able to see it. But the good thing about like today's day and age, if you miss the episode, you can record it or wait for it for a day or two on demand, or watch it on Hulu a couple of maybe about a week or two later. So yeah, it's definitely a bigger improvement as to how we watch our shows.
Now, what does now? There is a show that don't have that luxury. Is a show that I haven't heard too much about. I don't even know if it's going to air. I'll be honest, because I haven't watched that an episode since then. What's the Girls Meet World's verdict on it so far? It's been on 2 seasons, so obviously there are people watching it, but I haven't heard anything positive about it. Has Girl Meet World lost a steam quickly, or are they slowly but surely picking it back up where it's being known to be serious than what I've heard about this from this carnation. And
That's a
they've
good
had serious
question.
subject matter.
Yeah, to be quite honest, I haven't even seen a lot of Girl Meets World. I mean, I've just been hearing a lot about it. There's a guy on YouTube who reviews every episode when it comes out. Um, but other than that, I mean, it is funny because I remember when Girl Meets World first came out, it's like everybody needed to cash in on the popularity of, let's see if we can try to do a show based off of the characters that grew up and they had their own kids. Like, with Girl Meets World, we have Fuller House and we have the Gilmore Girls revival and so on and so forth. So, I mean, maybe Girl Meets World, I mean, for some people, it started off as like, oh, it's just a show that is kind of like a mixture between catering to the people's nostalgia because we see Corey and Topanga with their kids, and the girl is going through her school life, but it's kind of like it follows in the Disney Channel formula in which it has like the over the top acting and stuff like that, in which for some people it's like, oh, it feels like a modern Disney Channel show. It doesn't feel like Boy Meets World. But
And
as for
and you had a
losing
very
steam,
and you had a,
I mean, again, I haven't seen the more recent episode, so I'm not sure.
and you brought up something that's very very important because you said that there has the Disney formula. And look, I stopped watching Disney Channel when they actually stopped becoming the Disney Channel. I'm being realistic here. I think the last thing I watched on the Disney Channel was That's So Raven. So I think that was pretty much, and that was because I was very happy that Raven Simone had revamped her career. But there was always some that feeling that it's almost like you're repeating the same thing we've seen before with these other shows to the point I've seen this too many times. And Boys Meets World, when I grew up, was totally different. It was a time where Disney didn't even own ABC, and it was just an ABC property. And they did deal with very serious subject matters. And this is why I always felt that there are certain channels you can easily tell they dive into it to the point where I'm kind of surprised it's called a family show, even though I question it. Like Pretty Little Liar, I don't get why that's a family show, but you know, me, I can have the debate with John Skin all day, but I just don't get it. But I kind of wish they do. I'm not saying be violent, but don't talk down to the kids either. I mean, there's a reason why I like to follow that bird. There's a reason why there's certain shows like Grass on because they didn't talk down to me. They actually brought up subject matters that was important to today's issues. And as I'm looking at 2016, 2017, I really don't feel too many shows, whether animation or live.
Yeah, the main problem is, in my opinion, is that, well, I mean, going back to what I was saying earlier, there's a lot of focus groups.
Too many, very too many. And I just think I lost her. I think she'll be back on. I think there's something going on and that she needs to take care of. But this is the main issue, that I really wanted to bring up because again, are you back?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, as I was saying before, focus groups. Yeah, focus groups, they don't want to, harm the kids too much into saying like, we don't want to deliver this certain message because, it might harm them or something like that. It's funny because 1 million moms were wanting to have an episode of the Loud House Band because it featured a gay couple. And there was nothing serious about it. It was just, that one episode in which a boy, the main character Lincoln, his friends coming over to sleep over for the night, and you have his two dads coming by, and they're just, giving him his stuff and saying like, if you have anything, if there's any problems, call us and stuff like that. And it was just like a regular couple, and 1 million moms just got really aggravated, saying like, how dare you show this? Our kids watch this show. We want you to have this episode banned. It's like it's it's like you're trying to influence the fact that gay couples don't exist. I mean, the same thing happened like 20 years ago in which in Sailor Moon, the two Sailor Scouts started falling in love with one another, and then eventually they became a couple. But in the dub, the Canadian dub, they decided to change it into, oh, they're not a couple, they're cousins. So yeah, I mean, I mean, we're always pushing the boundaries of what can be presented nowadays because a lot of things have changed since then, and we're evolving, we're starting to branch out ourselves, and we want to be able to showcase to people that, hey, this is what life is. And some people most people are accepting it just fine, and then there's others, especially like the corporate people, they're like saying, like, can we really do this for on TV? And can we really pull this off, because maybe some people feel offended or something. So nowadays, with people saying, hey, let's push it to the next level, I mean, families can be able to appreciate that. And then there's some who don't, but you know what, I mean, that's just the way life is. Life is different than when it was back then, so you just you could accept it, but I mean, just have to understand that that's the way it is.
And that comes to some of the crazy part about this. Should creators and the studio itself just ignore some of these watchdogs and say, "Hey, listen, this is the world we live in now. Let's be honest. Some of you guys have racist tendencies anyway, and have certain hatred for the individual. Let's talk about it. Our kids are not blind to what's going on. Let's talk about it now, and then not talk about it at all. Should they just basically not base their show around being too PC? Because that's basically what it is, being PC for the sake of satisfying a certain group of people.
Yeah, I know. It's getting to the point in which it's it's like walking on eggshells. You don't want to insult a whole bunch of people. You can't say there's a certain way, or you can't, you know, um, bring up this certain subject or something like that. And I mean, it has gotten into the point in which we have, a lot of people have to be careful with that, because in our day and age, I mean, everything's very PC. And for some people it's like, I understand, and for other people it's like, why? I mean, sometimes life is harsh, and the truth is out there. But I think with all the stuff that's been going on nowadays with politics, and with all the programming that's on TV that pushes itself to saying, like, this is how we're going to present ourselves. So it's like family shows can be very muddling at points, because I mean, with our society the way it is, and with people creating shows that are trying to parody society, it kind of, and then there's also the fact that maybe a lot of kids are watching it. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I was younger, I watched shows that I wasn't allowed to watch because I wasn't at the right age. Like, I saw South Park when I was like around let's see, like around 11. And the show, a lot of people my age watched a lot of South Park and Beavis and Butthead, even though we weren't at the right age. And for a lot of kids, I mean, they watch The Simpsons and Family Guy, even though that those shows are not for kids. And they pick up all these lessons. And sometimes it's like, oh, it's a kid's show, it's a cartoon. I mean, what can, the kids are not going to be able to know the difference. It's like, no, I mean, animation should be treated as seriously as a live action show, because it can tell a really complex, deep story and moral just as much as a live action show does. And it's kind of, it's a shame that in a time back, even back then, in which adults thought that a lot of the shows that were on TV for kids were junk. Like, I mean, like back in the 80s, you had like toy commercial cartoons. And a lot of
Oh
adults
yeah.
said, that, oh, this is nothing more than just junk, and they wanted to change to more educational stuff. But then the educational stuff got to the point in which, sure, we're teaching the kids, but we're just pandering to the kids. It's like, you have to learn this way. What's the number between 2 and 4? It's like, okay, I get it. You want to teach kids, but now you're making it look like the kids are dumb. So
And that's the thing that worries me, because you brought up something about the 80s. My favorite show, there were 5 shows that shocked me and to this day it still had an impact to me. I don't know if you ever heard of Robotech.
I've heard of it. I've never seen it.
I've seen it, and it was one of the shows that actually shocked me. I'm sitting there, it was like, oh, I was already hooked on the show. And I'm like, oh, as a kid, okay, this is great. Good action, it's in the space. This is something that, you see explosions. And then you had one of the main, he was the one character, he was hurt, he was ready to quit. And then they did something that I never thought I'd see in a cartoon show in my life. They show a death of a major character.
Really?
And yes, his ship got shot, and he was hurt, but he didn't realize how bad he was hurt. He bled out, and they show
Wow.
him die, and I'm like, now I'm like 7, and I'm like, okay, he's coming back right next episode. No, he ain't coming back. He will not come back, and they did it back to back episodes. They did it. They did it twice. They killed one. They killed his brother, and they killed his best friend. I'm like, this is not. This is not really. This is not really happening. But it was a shot in the arm, and I was kind of glad they did it because it showed that hey, this is it is consequence. They're at war, and war, not everybody comes out alive. And I stopped watching. I kept watching it because it was more deeper. They had more serious subject matter. Keep in mind, I didn't know it was a Japanese animation. Japanese animation had more of an impact than people realized in the '80s than just Transformers. Speed Racer was a Japanese animation, and people don't even realize that was Japan's property. But it was very deep, and it was deep because again, out of all the shows, Scooby Doo, GI Joe, I call the show that can't shoot for nothing. Um, the show that showed, hey, violence is this is the consequence of violence, and it's one of the shows that really, with the exception of probably Beast Wars, it was one of those shows that really put it out there that hey, people can die in a show, and I don't really see that anymore with shows. It's very rare, but I don't see that with a show, and I kind of wish they did because it can wake you up saying, hey, violence ain't all fun and games.
Yeah, I mean it's funny. And if you remember from in the Legend of Korra, the main villain of season three, Zahir, goes over to the Earth Queen and shows up, and he does his airbending, choking her neck until she passes out, dying. So yeah, I mean there's a lot of violence, even still, even in kids' cartoons. It's like yes, it's true that oh, we can't show that much violence anymore. I mean, with anime, it's definitely a lot more understandable because in Japan, they treat their kids and they treat kids shows like anime. It's like our kids are not afraid to see a little bit of this and a little bit of that. I mean, our culture in America is much different than Japan. Kids are a lot more open-minded to seeing things like sex or violence or different archetypes of characters. I mean, similar to how in America we always have like that, dumb generic character. In Japan, there's going to be at least one anime character that's going to be a pervert. So, the culture is definitely very different. I guess it depends on, where the show is coming from. It's going to cater to a certain demographic. And something like Japan and even France, they treat they treat like family shows and family movies like for all ages, like animated films for all ages. Like that something like I don't know Minions is going to be like for kids, but then you see something like the Tributes of Belleville in France, and you know that that's going to be like a very mature film that kids can probably watch and maybe not understand, but it's a cartoon, it looks interesting. But then you have something like the plot in which the main character champion is kidnapped by the French mafia, and they're drugging him with wine just so they could be able to use him and other bikers so they can be able to do bets, for their sick attempt of trying to fool them, thinking that they're racing on the Tour de France. So yeah, I guess. I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is that with cultures, it's different of how shows are depicted or movies are depicted for for kids and for adults and for families definitely. And it's that fine line that I wish that there would be more of nowadays. It's always been that case in which this is for kids, this is for adults. No, we can make it for everyone.
Which which brings me to the thing that we were driving, especially with animation. And there's an animation I want your opinion a little bit later because I'm kind of shocked that Fox is doing this. And in many ways, it's weird, but I'm actually kind of glad they're doing it. It shows that at least they're trying to do something different. Um, Here's the thing. There you mentioned Sailor Moon. I'll start with them. Sailor Moon. I'm gonna keep it real. It's not a kids animated show.
It's not. It's more for teenagers. Even though
Yeah, and
America did try to make it for kids, they even had tried to do an American version of Sailor Moon that was only just shown as a pilot, but it never came out, thank God. But yeah,
yeah, I
for the
mean,
most part, it's for older kids and teenagers. It's not for little kids.
just for the record, they didn't try to do what the Rugrats did with the preschool year, did they?
Oh yeah, preschool days. I don't even. Oof. Yeah,
I'm,
that was when
I'm
they were
like,
at their low point. That's for sure.
I mean, when I saw it, I said, first of all, they do know Angelica and Susie never met when they was in their toddler years. I just don't know. Everybody knows that. That's
Exactly. I mean, that's not how they met. It doesn't stick with it just goes into a different source of continuity. But yeah, that's not how they met. Susie moved over to the neighborhood, and eventually, she met up with Tommy and the rest of the gang. And Angelica and Susie are mostly rivals, if anything. I mean, it was even consistent all the way and all grown up, and then they kind of started becoming friends slowly in the show. But in preschool days, I mean, I know it was done by people who were writers of the show and didn't have any involvement with Classic Chuko. You can tell because the animation's different, but I mean that thing lasted for only 4 episodes, and that was pretty much it. And nobody talks about
I don't think
that.
I don't think it even came out in the U.S. I
I
know it
mean,
came out in the U.K.
it only had like 4 episodes, and it showed on Nick Jr. and then that was pretty much it.
Uh, did they even show? Did they even show Little Cosby and Nick Jr. Still, or they took that off?
Little Cosby?
Yep.
I think you mean by Little Bill, right? Because
Yeah.
yeah, Little Bill was created by Bill Cosby, right? I think that's what you're talking about.
Yes. I forgot it was called
Ah,
Little Bill.
I don't, I don't know. I mean, when did that show come out? Like around like 2001 or two or something. I mean, I was in high school when that stuff came out, so I have no clue. I mean, I did see like maybe an episode or two because I wanted to see if I was gonna review it for the Nickelodeon tribute, and I was like, yeah, there's really not much to say about it. And I never got a hold of anybody from the show, so I decided to just nix it. The only few shows from Nick Jr. that I did review was Eureka's Castle because I grew up with it, and I had Noel McNeil and Cheryl Blaylock as guest interviews. And then there was the Little Bear movie, and I had a hold of Christy Fairley, who was the voice of the character, and Allegra's Window because it was Jim Jenkins who created it as well as Doug, and then Gullah Gullah Island because
I think you. I think you reviewed the entire segment of the show.
no, I
I
didn't
don't think.
review
And I know it.
everything. I didn't review everything. I mean the last two was Blue's Clues and Yo Gabba Gabba and Dora the Explorer, and I didn't review anything else. I didn't talk about the Backyardigans or what was it like Wonder Pets and stuff like that. I didn't talk about any of those other things. I just focused on the more popular ones and the ones that I did get a hold of as guests for interviewing. But that was pretty much it. And yeah, I mean, the preschool shows on Nick Jr. Yeah, that's actually a really interesting one, in which the ones that we grew up with. For a lot of for like Eureka's Castle, for example, a lot of the people who worked on Sesame Street did the puppetry, and R.L. Stein co-created the show alongside with Kit Laybourne, Geraldine Laybourne's husband. Uh, and yeah, it was a show that really gravitated to a lot of for the families because it had like fun characters and it was very heavily gag based, and then all the other shows started coming out for Nick Jr. and um, yeah, I mean, it was funny because I remember when there was this one interview. I don't remember who said it,
Hmm.
but around the early to mid '90s, when Sesame Street was focusing on like Elmo or something like that. Like everything was like Elmo, everything. And then they were saying like, oh, preschool shows are playing it way too safe. It's like it's pandering to the demographic or whatever. And then the late '90s happened with like Blue's Clues and Bear in the Big Blue House, and it's like these are shows that kids and adults can get into. And and
And
then
just for the record, and
go
just
ahead.
for the record, not all. preschoolers were just dumbed down. That's to their defense. I never thought Sesame Street was dumbed down, or Electric Company, or 321 Contact, or my personal favorite, and I think it's yours too if you remember watching it, was Carmen San Diego.
Ah, yes, yes. I never said that Sesame Street was dumbed down. Of course not. I'm just saying, like, that was when, remember in the late 90s when everybody was just going crazy about Elmo and they just focused everything about him? Like, there was the Tickle Me Elmo dolls and the Elmo's World segments and stuff like that. That's what I was talking about.
Well, he saved Sesame Street, for what I understand, which I don't know how that's possible, but for what I heard, Sesame Street took a beating, and they was contemplating on canceling it, and Elmo just came out, and all of a sudden it just blew up. I don't know what. Honestly, I don't know what people see in Elmo at all.
Me neither. I mean, he was after my time. I mean, I do remember he was like a minor character, and Grover was the one who was like everybody's favorite monster. And I don't know. I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe he did save Sesame Street. I have no clue. But I remember, everybody was like saying like, Elmo ruined Sesame Street. It's like, I mean, when something is overplayed to death, it can be overwhelming at times. I mean, it could be done for any character if it's like, when you remember a time in which, everybody was equal. It's like, Big Bird has his segments, or Bert and Ernie had their segments, or Grover had his segment, or whatever. And then when, it's like, when Elmo came along, it was all about him, and he had those two, they had those movies or whatever. It's like, I mean, that was when I guess I can understand, when I guess when Elmo's started becoming more popular, it's like a lot of people just said like, Sesame Street's not trying anymore, or whatever. But the point of what I was trying to make is that when it comes to family shows, you do have to be able to branch out for multiple demographics, as well as try to see if you can be able to tell a lesson that is wonderfully presented, that can be fun, but at the same time it gives you a strong moral that you can be able to think about after the show's over. Maybe talk about with other people and have good discussions, whether they have disagreements or agreements on it. It's like that's that's what I think is one of the things that makes a family show or a family movie great, in my opinion.
I agree, and this is the thing about this, and here's the thing: a lot of stuff that people have been talking to me about, and I really, honestly, never thought about it until it was brought up, until I started doing a little history of the things, and I started scratching my head about things that like spin-offs. Nickelodeon had a lot of spin-offs they was wanting to do, and it never came to fruition. And the show that they was going to spin off, I kind of wonder if they would have done it or allowed to people who were daring to do it. I kind of wonder they may have worked because the characters is so complex and yet so interesting. It could have brought a new depth to the show. Like for instance, would you have watched a Helga Pataki show?
Absolutely, of course. I mean, I was one of those people who was really disappointed when the Batakis never got picked up as a spin-off series. And, Craig Bartlett had wanted to do one based off of her family, and it was going to be on MTV, but then MTV was like saying, oh, no, it's going to be, it sounds very similar to Daria. And so they tried Nick at Night, and they said no because it was too scary for kids. And this was when
What? Too
Team
scary?
Nick was, yeah, too scary for kids. I'm not even joking. Teen Nick didn't want to. The Teen Nick didn't exist at the time, so it was a shame that his idea came in a little too early because I think it would have been great for Teen Nick. But yes, I've heard a lot of interviews from Craig talking about the Patakis, and I would have loved to have seen it. Taking a much more darker direction towards a show that was, for the most part, a kid's show, but it was able to talk about adult things, and that was great. And it certainly would have been paving the way for a lot more other shows saying, like, hey, we have these shows geared towards kids. Let's see if maybe we can make a spin off series that leans towards more of the adults. I think that, in my opinion, if that would have came out, maybe Adult Party Cartoon could have fared out a lot more different.
And that's the whole thing about it. Because when I heard the premise, when they was first told me, because I didn't know there was actually a sequel to a Hey Arnold movie that never came to fruition. Which I was like, I seen the first Hey Arnold movie, and I thought it wasn't bad, but I wouldn't. They should have been made for television more so than than to be in the theaters. I think it would have done much better. But I would have definitely been for a sequel, especially when it's explaining the origin story of his family, which they never really went into detail. And that would probably have been a good send off for Arnold to lead right to Helga and her preteen or teen years with the same gang that lived in the neighborhood. I thought it would have worked, and unfortunately, it didn't happen. The same thing goes with the Carmichaels. Um, there was also talk about Susie having her own show. I'm like, wow, these are shows that I actually would have actually wanted to see. Let's give it a try. Hey, you gave Grown Up. Why not give Susie her own show? Have her move and have it be focused on them. Then, but for some odd reason, that never happened. And I'm like, I wonder what they were afraid of.
Well, I don't know. I mean, with the Carmichaels, they were talking about the idea ever since 1999, and that was around the same time in which Bruce Smith pitched the Proud Family to Nickelodeon, and they were like saying, a show about an African American family. We're doing the Carmichaels, so no." And then eventually he pitched it over to Disney Channel, and they picked it up. And yeah, for some reason, when they tried to do the Kwanzaa special as their unofficial pilot, I don't know. Maybe I guess my hypothesis as to why it didn't pick up is because a year prior in 2001, when they did the all grown up TV movie, it was like over like I believe it was like over 13 million viewers tuned in. Like 70% of kids who were ages 2 to 11 saw that special, and they were like thinking, okay, this has gained us a whole bunch of viewers. Which would be a bigger priority to do a spin-off of? The Carmichaels or All Grown Up? And I guess All Grown Up must have won out over the Carmichaels because I don't remember if the Kwanzaa special did as well as say like the Hanukkah special or the Passover special, but All Grown Up brought in so many viewers for Nickelodeon. It's like, yeah,
But there
I
was a
mean,
reason for that, though. When I
exactly.
saw the advertisement of that, I thought that was the last episode.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
Yeah,
so.
and here the funny thing is, according to a lot of according to, and actually, I knew this was the case because when I remember watching it, I was still in my pre-teens watching Rugrats. That's how good the Rugrats was. But it was canceled back then, and it got revived. I think it was a holiday special that
It
brought
didn't
it
get
back.
canceled per se. You see, back then, once you do 65 episodes, that's pretty much it. You just go on to syndication. So it technically didn't get canceled. It just finished its run. The sad thing is that back then, I mean, once you do like either 52 or 65 episodes, depending on what number you're given, that was pretty much it, and it just basically lived on reruns. And because the
Wow,
reruns of
so
Rugrats worked so well the first time, they decided, you know what, let's see if we can give this a shot. And they did the Hanukkah special. The Hanukkah special did massively well, and so that's when the revival happened.
okay. Oh, good to know because I feel like they canceled it before, and then all of a sudden they bring it back. I mean, there's
No, the show was never like it was. I mean, I guess they would call it kind of like a hiatus per se. I mean, they finished they finished the show, but when the Hanukkah special happened, the main showrunner and a lot of the writers left Rugrats to work on other stuff. So when the Hanukkah special became a success, they brought in some new writers, they brought in some new animators, and they decided to do the show again. So if we were to have, like, say, an example of a show being canceled and being brought back would be like Family Guy, in which not a lot of people watched Family Guy when it came out on Fox, but then when it was rerun on Adult Swim, it gained a new audience again, and then that was when the show was revived.
it was canceled for a good 10 years.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, I'm surprised that they bring it back that late. But I have my questions about Fox sometimes when they don't give shows a chance and they get embarrassed by syndication sometimes. Um,
Yeah, I'm looking at you, Firefly.
oh man, have you heard about that story that the Blockbuster Buster told?
No, I have not.
Oh my God, I'm surprised Netflix did that. I might as well just I might as well just go off the cuff for a minute. Do you know there was an incident where Netflix was promoting new episodes of Firefly,
I think I heard about that. Yeah.
and it was like it's gonna come soon. Everybody was so excited, and it was an April Fool joke.
Yes, now I remember. Yeah, that's the one. I think there was also one recently in which they were saying like, oh, there's going to be a Firefly animated series or something like that, or a comic or something, and then it turned out, oh no, no, there isn't, and everybody got mad as well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but you know what's strange though is that should tell them that there's people who want to that want to continue the storyline. Um, but I think the reason why they ain't gonna do it honestly is because the guy who created it say, look, I can't do nothing else at this point. We had a chance, we had a shot, and it didn't fall in the cards. So you might as well just do Serenity and Firefly and just leave it as is. I would like to see it because it definitely has got a fan base. Or let somebody else do it and do what they did with Battlestar Galactica. I don't know. That was
Yeah.
you don't know. Battlestar Galactica is always an old series, and it just got new breath of life when they redid it. When they redid it the way they did. They can bring it back if they want to. I just don't think they want to take the because I heard it was expensive just for the TV show alone.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know it would be really expensive, but trust me, I mean, that'll get like millions of people to be tuning in.
Definitely, because there's definitely people who want to see it.
Hmm.
Uh, but that also brings the question is, what's your feeling? I'm up for each of the networks. What's your feeling? What's their signature show? And do you have faith that there's going to be a big turnaround, especially with the buzz? Because even, and I'm not really sad that this is actually fading away, thank God, because I can't take another My Little Pony situation with men watching this show, not kids.
There's an episode of Bob's Burgers that actually talks about that, in which, Tina once is like a fan of like a pony show, and then she goes to a convention, and it turns out that all the people who love the pony show are all guys.
I don't get it. I mean,
I mean,
I
it's
don't
funny.
think
I
they're
mean, I guess it
complaining.
just really resonated with a lot of people. Not to say anything bad about them, because a lot of our colleagues from Manic Expression are bronies, so no diss to them. It's like,
I'm not knocking. I'm not knocking, but I just don't. How is it possible that a show that was made? Because I'm looking at My Little Pony. See, I grew up with the first version. See, there was a prime time slot that didn't last long, and I can tell you every last the show that lasted in that prime time slot. Strawberry Shortcake, Rainbow Bright, My Little Pony was one of them. It didn't last too long. Here's a revamp, and it has gotten more popular. But I don't hear many children. I'm expecting this is for girls, young teenagers. I'm hearing men watching this. Like this either they got the demographic wrong, or there's something to this show that just attracts these guys to watch this show. Something about this show is really, but you can't tell me this is not odd.
you mean no? To be quite honest, it's not. I mean, Lauren Faust, who created My Little Pony, worked on shows like Powerpuff Girls and Foster's Home. And Powerpuff Girls was a show for little girls, initially, and then guys started getting into it. Like all little boys were afraid of saying that I like Powerpuff Girls because it's a show about girls. And
I
like,
wasn't. I'll tell you right now. I'm gonna be very straight up. I say, hey, look, I watched the Powerpuff Girls when the Powerpuff Girls wasn't even a show. When they had like little skits. I watched Dexter's Laboratory, Powerpuff Girls on that same skit.
I know. I'm just saying, like, my friend James, when he was talking about, his experience about saying, like, when I was a kid and I won something on the assembly, like some sort of like prize or something, and I was given a Powerpuff Girls doll, and all the guys laughed at me, and I was like, I didn't care because I like Powerpuff Girls. So, and one of the reasons why the Powerpuff Girls movie didn't do so well in the box office, from what I've heard, was because a lot of boys were ashamed of going to the movie theater thinking that they were going to be laughed at because, we're watching the Powerpuff Girls. It's a show about girls. It's like, this is the same thing for My Little Pony, in which it's a show that is smartly told. It's about friendship. There's a lot of pop culture references to like Doctor Who, and there's a lot of celebrity guests that show up a lot of the times, and it's fun. And in a time in which My Little Pony was pretty much nothing, it's just, it's a show that's about ponies and it's all rainbows and it's pandering to little girls. It's like, we have somebody who loved the original My Little Pony, came along and said, we can do this better. And it resonated with so many people, including, like you were saying before, a bunch of guys. I'm not even joking. When I was in line in Florida SuperCon and Tara Strong was one of our, one of the special guests, and I was waiting in line for 2 hours to meet up with her. And there was a guy in front of me, and he had long curly hair and a beard, and he had a guitar, and he was just talking about a whole bunch of stuff like, oh, everything from like, oh, metal music to, oh, wouldn't it be funny if we post about like, I'm gonna vote for Donald Trump just to troll people. And then when he met up with Tara Strong, and he um said,
He
can you
geeked out, didn't
please,
he?
huh?
He geeked out, didn't he?
Okay, I gotta tell this story. So he kneeled down to her and presented his guitar, and then and then he was getting the guitar, and he's like, can you please voice Bubbles for me? And she did the Bubble voice, and he screamed like a girl. And this was a guy who for the past 2 hours was talking about metal music and trolling people saying he was going to vote for Donald Trump. And he screamed like a girl when he met up with Tara Strong, and she did the Bubbles voice. And then there was another guy in front of me who was a brony, and he carried like so many My Little Pony merchandise. And to be fair, he was one of the people who was like a moderator for a brony convention in Orlando. And every time he saw a little girl dressed up as Twilight Sparkle or Rainbow Dash, he was like, "Oh, hi there. You like My Little Pony? Well, here's a card or something. Come to our convention." And then, he, and then when Tara showed up, he brought in all of his dolls inside their original boxes, and then he geeked out when she did the Twilight Sparkle voice, and he was like 35. And yeah, I mean, the point that I'm trying to make is that, just because on the surface it does look like it's going to be for one demographic, another demographic can be able to pick it up because it resonates with them something special. I mean, like we were saying, like you were saying, you didn't think that Powerpuff Girls was like only for girls because you liked it. Well, at the time, a lot of people were afraid. Well, a lot of guys were afraid of saying like, oh, this show's for girls. What if people make fun of me? And same thing with My Little Pony. It's like, yeah, it's a show about ponies and it's for little girls, but guys can get into it too. And you
Oh
know
yeah,
what? It's like, what about for girls, for example? Girls can watch Transformers or GI Joe. Guys can watch My
yeah,
Little
they do.
Pony and Powerpuff Girls. It's like, you know,
And it's funny you say that because if you look back then in the '80s, a lot of girls did watch GI Joe and Transformers, just like a lot of men who is honest was watching soap operas when they had nothing to do at home. Yeah,
exactly.
men watch more soap operas than women. I mean, I'm being real. I mean, that's the honest truth. If you look at it, yeah, us men out all my children like it was something that you talk in the water cooler. But what the one thing I will say, and I'm glad you told this story because it shows. Um, I'm happy to hear that story because that's happiness that guy have. As crazy as it may sound to some people about him being happy, that made that man happy. Him being a fan of Mama Pony and meeting one of his favorites voice actors and voicing the work, that made him happy, and that's always a good thing. That's not a bad thing at all.
Oh, absolutely not. It's always a wonderful thing to see. I mean, there was another one that I can remember. Like 2 years ago, I was at Magic City Comic Con. No, no, no. This was no, this was what was it? No, it was 2 years ago, but it was at Florida SuperCon. Now I remember. Roger Bumpus came to the convention, and Roger Bumpus, for those who don't know, is the voice of Squidward from SpongeBob. And there was a guy in front of me who was like a teenager, and he was dressed as the scout from Team Fortress 2. And he presented a SpongeBob movie DVD saying, like, I want to thank you so much for voicing as, this character. I grew up in a foster home, and, I would watch SpongeBob all the time. And, that made me happy when I was going through some rough things. And it's like, and then there was another one in which I remember this year, I think, in which I was in line and there was a kid who was special, and he was talking to Steve Bloom about him watching Digimon, and how he loved watching Digimon. And it's like, for a lot of us adults, it's like we're sometimes being made fun of because it's like we're watching these shows for kids or whatever. It's like, no, we like watching them because they resonate with us in a very personal way. And it's like, for like for normal society, we're being made fun of. But if you go to a place like a convention or something like that, it's like you're amongst friends. You're not going to
Hmm.
be made fun of. You're not going to be teased. You're not going to be told like you're a geek or something like that. It's like, you have, I guess for a lot of people, it's like, I feel ashamed that I watched this because, oh, it's not for my age demographic. It's like, I mean, I guess there's a fine line between that, but for the most part, if something makes you happy and, if it's a family show, especially that, maybe you're a little too old for it and, you find something very personal, it's not harmful to anybody or to yourself, then I don't see what's the problem with watching it.
You bring up a very good thing. And again, that's a feeling I think that for that guy, if I would have been there, it would have shocked me, but I would have had a smile on my face, say, you know what, there was some joy. He had some joy watching this show, and to show his appreciation, and to do what he did, and get joy hearing his favorite voice actor. Uh, that always brings a smile to my face. I'm glad you told me that story, because that's what it's really all about. Bringing having a joy, something that you love, and really puts out the best in people when you hear stories like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Which now brings the situation. Let's start with Nickelodeon.
Okay.
Um, let's start with Nickelodeon, because that has always been, in my feeling, that was the one that started off old school lane.
Well, technically, that's not how old school lane started. It started off as like my friend and I. We wanted to talk about things that we liked, and the stuff with Nickelodeon was originally supposed to be a summer project, and let's just say it
Yeah,
lasted a lot longer than that. But
it did.
yeah, but for the most part, that is kind of like our main staple for now. But yeah, continue.
There's a lot of shows that they're gonna pretty much come out with. There's a lot of shows they're gonna keep. There's a lot of shows I'm surprised are still on the air. What shows do you see that has promises? What show do you believe is on his last leg if it doesn't do well? And what direction right now you see them going for 2016, 2017?
All right, good question. The shows that have promise right now, obviously, are the two most popular new Nicktoons right now are Harvey Beaks and The Loud House. Those are the ones that are getting a lot of people thinking that, hey, you know what? These new shows can actually work out for them. And a lot of the live action shows are still kind of struggling because, a lot of them are created by Dan Schneider, and the ones that are not created by Dan Schneider, nobody likes. So, they continue to outsource a lot of like, TV programs from other places and try to Americanize them. Then there was that School of Rock TV series that people are wondering, like, why are they making a TV show based off of a movie from over a decade ago? And then
Have
there's,
you seen the Broadway show? You
I
do
have
know we have a
not
Broadway
seen.
show in New York.
I do know that I do now know just recently that there is a Broadway show on
That's
yeah,
probably
on the
why.
School of Rock, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe they are trying to tap on the popularity of the Broadway show. Maybe that's why they did
Yeah.
the TV show. But anyway, but yeah, there's
The Broadway
that, and
show is
then
hugely popular here in New York. People love that show. It's
I did
actually
see
surprisingly really, really good.
when I was over in New York last week. I did see a lot of signs for it, and um, I know that Alex Brightman, the guy who plays as the what was Jack Black's character in School of Rock again?
It's escaping me right now. I
Yeah,
call with Jack
but
Black. It's like he's playing himself sometimes.
yeah, pretty much. So yeah, Alex Brightman, the main actor for the School of Rock Broadway show, is actually one of the writers of Mark Summers' one man show. So yeah, I'm actually very familiar with the Broadway show now because of Alex Brightman. But before then, I was like, why are they doing a School of Rock TV series for Nickelodeon? It's like, oh, they're probably cashing on the Broadway show. And then there's that, and then there's obviously the Alvin show, tapping in on the Alvin and Chipmunks movies that came out. So for and then for where Nickelodeon's heading now, I mean, a lot of people are talking very positive about it, especially with the Splat that came out just a few months ago, almost a year ago at this point. Holy crap! Um, because they did a lot more of honoring the shows of the past more than the '90s or all that did. in which they're having a lot more variety. They're inviting a lot of the people to guest star on their podcast, the Nickelodeon Animation podcast that opened up in Burbank about a few months ago, and
Mm-hmm.
nice. And the 25th anniversary thing that they did on the Splat. And then there was the Double Dare panel over at San Diego Comic Con, and also the new upcoming movies that are coming out: the Legends of the Hidden Temple movie, the Hey Arnold TV movie, the Rocko's Modern Life TV movie. And just now, I think it was just yesterday, they're posting up that there's going to be a Ren and Stimpy short coming out for the third SpongeBob movie in 2019. So, I mean, when it comes to Nickelodeon's like Perpetuum Past, it's like, yeah, they're really respecting it. The newer stuff, it's like, the cartoons, both the cartoons are doing very well, and they're becoming like major staples, and the live action stuff are still but they're knowing that they're
Ask me
very
one question. Ask me one question. They're not doing another Nick that Nick 10, whatever the hell that was.
Oh, Nick Studio 10. No, that show's gone now. I mean, they learned their lesson. They learned their lesson that, yeah, Awesomeness TV and Nick Studio 10, yeah, we're not going to do that anymore. So, yeah, they don't do that anymore. Thank God. It's funny because I was just doing a podcast about, Nickelodeon now. It's like, yeah, remember when Nick Studio 10 happened? Yeah, that was such a long time ago, wasn't it? That was awful. Ugh. But yeah, we're past that, and I'm glad that they realized that they're past that because one of the people who's doing like one of the one of the people behind like the show the show pitching, Chris Viscardi, he's worked with Pete and a couple of stuff like that. And he's the one responsible for saying like, let's see if we can do these like TV movies. Let's see if we can branch out these new projects. We got to balance out between today's kids and the people who grew up with the shows. It's like he knows what he's talking about. And the person who was like the president of that, Russell Hicks, the same guy who said, kids want the new stuff. We want last generation's leftovers, whatever. He's gone now, so yeah, I mean, it's getting a little bit better now, and we'll hopefully, fingers crossed that it's going to lead up to the right path. It's funny looking back on it now. It's like we're in 2016, we're in the halfway point of the 2010s. Nickelodeon's actually starting to become better with itself, and Cartoon Network is going to go down because regular show has just been announced to be canceled, and people are not happy about Teen Titans Go and the Powerpuff Girls reboot. And there's going to be a Ben 10 reboot, and everybody's gone so angry about
We're
that.
definitely gonna talk about Cartoon Network in a minute, but I do have to ask. I want to before we leave Nickelodeon. Why? How is SpongeBob still popular?
Because
I
it
thought we
still makes
canceled the
a
season
lot of
3.
money. I know it's crazy to think, but it still makes a lot of money. It makes more money than any of the other shows that are on the air right now. I mean, that's the sad truth is that SpongeBob is it makes millions of dollars for Nickelodeon, and the second
You're
SpongeBob
telling
movie
me?
did
Wait,
very
wait.
well.
Are you really telling me that SpongeBob? I'm not just talking about the ratings, but the merchandise equals Elmo.
Pretty much, unfortunately.
Because I
I
didn't think the
mean,
movie was gonna do that good, and the movie did great,
yes, it
despite the
did.
mixed reviews.
Exactly. I mean, and also not to mention that, season 9 of SpongeBob has gotten people saying, you know what, SpongeBob is getting good again because Steven Hillenburg came back, as the main showrunner. The guy who was the showrunner for all those seasons that he left after the first movie, he's gone now. And so now Steven Hillenburg is back after being not a part of the show for almost a decade. And, it's like, yeah, SpongeBob's still making that kind of money. I mean, it's funny because I remember, what was it? It's like I remember hearing a podcast talking about like, what is it with characters that make a whole bunch of money for companies? Why are they yellow? I mean, seriously, the Minions, SpongeBob. I mean, why are they yellow? Seriously, it's like next time I'm gonna create a show that I want to see big millions of dollars. I'm gonna make my main character yellow.
You know what? If it is what it is, I'm not gonna go argue with it. But I'm just kind of stunned because honestly, I thought SpongeBob was canceled years ago.
Yeah, a lot of people wanted SpongeBob to be canceled years ago.
I didn't want it. I just thought it was canceled years ago, and then I saw the movie. I'm like, wait, they made another one? Because I know they made more than one movie that came out in theaters. I'm like, this thing is still a thing, and then I found out they're still on TV. I'm like, wow. I'm reaching 40 soon, and this thing is still going strong. But then again, The Simpsons still going strong. Everybody think that should have been canceled a long time ago too. So,
Yeah, and there you go. That's another show that has yellow characters.
so, um, yeah, it's amazing. No show that you feel is on this last leg though.
Oh, let's see. I wish those live action shows like Henry Danger and the Thundermans can just go. But as far as I know, I mean, I haven't heard anything yet. I mean, thank God Breadwinners was canceled and Sanjay and Craig was gone. And a lot of people were so excited when hearing that news. But as for its last leg, I just wish that all the live action shows would be gone and then they would just be replaced by people who actually want to tell a cohesive story with live action stuff. Because, I mean, I know I make fun of Dan Schneider a lot on my podcast, but I really do respect the guy. It's just that I feel that his stuff is just getting so stale. I mean, Drake and Josh was great. iCarly's and then all this other stuff afterwards just became even worse. Like I don't know, Sam and Cat was like at the lowest point, and then he went to do Gibby, and that never got picked up. Then he did Henry Danger, and that show did not need to exist. And then he's doing Game Shakers, and it's a massive insult for people who want to get into the gaming industry. It's like you have these 12-year-old kids, and they make game apps, and they're like, big and successful. It's like, what? And it's a shame that Kel
It's like,
Mitchell is wasting his talent on doing something like this. But you know what? I can't complain because I met Kel Mitchell a few months ago. He's a really nice, cool guy. So you know what? It's like, I mean, I would love for the opportunity to see people take in the opportunity to do like live action shows for Nick. But I mean, until Dan Schneider is on his last leg, Nickelodeon's not going to let him go. So you know what? I mean, I'm just waiting until the day in which somebody who actually cares about the live action stuff will say, you know what? It's the same way in which we did Harvey Beaks and the Loud House. Let's see if we can do the same thing with the live action show. So let's wait and see.
it's safe to say that Nickelodeon's strength is still the animation department.
Yep, it still is strong in the animation department, which, you know what, it used to be a time in which they used to be both strong in the animation and in the live action department. I mean, Nickelodeon started off as like a preschool program. Like it used to showcase like tons of educational stuff. The animation stuff was a second priority. But then, when you had like you can't do that on television and Double Dare and all that stuff, and then eventually, the Nicktoons came along. It's like they had that balance of let's do great live action stuff as well as great animation stuff. And then unfortunately the live action stuff kind of just petered its way out because everybody tried to cap in on the popularity of like let's do shows about boy bands and pop singers because Hannah Montana came out in high school musical. Let's do the Naked Brothers band. And then, the Devil Wears Prada came out. And it's like, let's do Trick Jackson BP. And then we had,
They
let's
try to
see.
copy somebody else's stuff and it didn't work.
Yeah, pretty much. And then Dan
Oh,
Schneider was the king of live action shows. And, whether you like, Zoe 101 and iCarly, they basically were hits for Nickelodeon. I remember when 2007, 2008, it was basically nothing more than just marathons of iCarly and SpongeBob. That was it. And then they had like little sprinkles of all the other, like little sprinkles of the other shows. Like they had SpongeBob, iCarly, and then we'll put the Fairly Odd Parents in there. And then that's basically it. Just everything else just basically was in the back burner because it didn't make as much money as SpongeBob did, and it wasn't gaining as much ratings as iCarly was. So you know what? I mean, it's sad to say that, as long as Nickelodeon is, saying to themselves, you know what? It's like Dan Schneider and all these other people are making us money because of what show they did. It's like they're not going to push for more creativity like they usually do. They're going to play it safe because, what if it's not going to become a success like the first time or whatever? It's like we need to make that money. But you know what? It's like remember in a time in which Nickelodeon didn't have a lot of money, in which they were a low budget studio, a low budget company. that relied on, kids who weren't even actors, and none of them have agents. None of them had like, record and not record. Well, yeah, record deals for singers or whatever. It's like, today's kids, they have to have, they need to be singers, they need to be dancers, they need to look pretty. But if you look back on like, you can't do that on television or
It's
open
not.
act. I mean,
It's not more like Disney. It's
exactly. I
not more
mean,
like Disney.
exactly. I mean, DJ McHale, the creator of Are You Afraid of the Dark, even said this a few years ago, saying like, I can't even tell the Disney Channel from Nickelodeon anymore.
Yeah,
It's like,
that's the Disney proof. And it didn't work well for them then. It ain't working well for them now.
exactly,
I know
yeah.
there's a lot of bitterness with them. Let's move on to Cartoon Network. Or, like my many of my friends said, the network that don't know what it wants to be these days. Which, to be fair, they have improved somewhat in their shows. There are shows, like I said, nostalgia wise, didn't work out as well as they want to. They're still showing it, they're still promoting it. The resurgence of the Powerpuff Girls. Um, I'm assuming that they got their act together with Star Wars, with some of the Star Wars things they have left. But there is a certain thing that I'm actually kind of curious about. Is Cartoon Network trying to move away from the superhero genre?
Um, well, I mean, to be quite honest, the superhero genre, I mean, they attempted to try to do something with the superhero genre, but yeah, I mean, with Teen Titans Go becoming like a popular thing, it's like, because Young Justice didn't bring in the amount of money for the toy merchandise and the DVD sales and all that stuff, it's like, hey, we're going to cancel that because nobody likes to see shows with complex characters and deep storylines. No, everybody likes to see Teen Titans Go with its colorful humor and its, crazy acting characters that is a massive insult to the original or whatever. So yeah, they're not really focusing too much on the superhero stuff anymore. It's like more, we're gonna make cartoons that are more, sillier. It's like, you had shows, back then in 2010 when they rebranded themselves. It's like saying, yeah, CN Real, that didn't work out. We're not going to do live action stuff anymore. Let's see if we can do Adventure Time, a regular show. And then eventually, as time went on, Steven Universe came out. And then, then we had to deal with the superhero stuff that came out, like Young Justice and Green Lantern, the animated series. Didn't work out. And then they decided, what? Kids like to see comedy and crazy humor and just insanity and whatever. So let's see if we can put out Teen Titans Go, and then Teen Titans Go went on like a huge successful spree because they were the show for the time. But at the same time, the fans of the original Teen Titans hated it, but the kids love it. So let's see if we can do the same thing for Powerpuff Girls, in which for fans of the Powerpuff Girls don't like it, but then the new kids who never heard of the Powerpuff Girls like it, and then they had that crossover just recently, and then they
So
had.
from so from what I'm understanding, it's kind of weird because you're mentioning something I've seen in the pound here. They're not really catering to the old fans anymore. They're trying to get the new ones.
The people who created Teen Titans Go, when they were creating that show, they had never seen an episode of the original Teen Titans.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
basically we're just like saying like, yeah, we've never seen the show. We're just gonna be able to just essentially, take the characters that were well established in this previous incarnation and just do whatever we want with it. And it's a show that's supposed to be more funny, and it's supposed to be more lighthearted, and it's supposed to be more, goofy or whatever. And a lot of people were insulted by it. And to be fair, I have not seen a lot of Teen Titans episodes. I remember when I was in Orlando and I was visiting my cousin, and he was just watching it like in the background or something, and I was like watching maybe an episode or something. I was like, I mean, it's okay, I guess. I mean, I wasn't insulted by it, but everybody else
Just
on the internet was insulted.
check your mic. I think because you're fading in and out.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, so yeah, I was saying like I haven't seen a lot of Teen Titans Go episodes. I've only seen like a handful of them when I was in my cousin's house in Orlando, but I have been hearing the internet going crazy about it. And then for Powerpuff Girls, same thing, in which I saw like maybe the first or three episodes, and yeah, they were a mixed bag. I mean, I wasn't too insulted with it, but everybody was going crazy for it, and it's like I want to give these shows a fair chance. I just haven't had the time to sit down and watch it. But from what I've been hearing, a lot of people are feeling insulted by it. And then, then I saw the trailer for the Ben 10 reboot that's coming out, and people are just going insultingly crazy about it. And it's like, oh, they're ruining my childhood or whatever. It's like, I don't know about you, but to be
To,
perfectly
to be
fair, by
fair, to be fair, I'm a fan of Hong Kong Fooey, and I saw something that drove me nuts because that's not Hong Kong Fooey. So I'm not even gonna go into detail. Just look it up on YouTube.
Um,
And
it's funny because a few months ago, my friend and I we were talking about like they were attempting of doing a Hong Kong Phooey live action movie, and Eddie Murphy was going to be the voice of Hong Kong Phooey or something.
no, he's not.
I know,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I know,
That's
but
probably the
that
one I'm talking about.
yeah, they were thinking about doing something like that, but it never happened. So yeah, I'm glad that that thing didn't exist. But yeah, it's funny because going back, my friend and I we were talking about like a lot of people are angry about all the stuff that Cartoon Network's posting, and everybody's happy about the stuff that Nickelodeon's doing. It's like, man, what a role of reversal that happened in like 5 years. And
I think it has something more to do with the fact that they lost a couple of properties. Granted, Disney have taken over some of the stuff they used to have, and I think they have a very see. People forget that it's not just the ratings that determines whether a show stays on the air. It's how much product they can sell during that airtime. And if a product don't sell, I don't care how many can have the most. It can have a 55 rating, $55 million, 55 million viewership. If they ain't selling no toys or they're not selling a product, that show's gonna be canceled.
yeah, exactly. And that's the sad thing. It's like, going back to Young Justice, a lot of people really love that show. And because of not doing well with toy sales, it got canceled. But then when, having something like, all the other shows that do well with toy sales, that's going to have to stick around. And that's the sad truth, unfortunately, in which, you know, in a day and age in which, if your show doesn't do well in both ratings and with merchandising, kiss your show goodbye. And it's a shame, really. I mean, I would have loved to have seen, Young Justice continue on, or but the fact of the matter is that it didn't happen, and we'll just. I mean, the sad that's the sad truth. It's like if your show isn't marketable, we're not going to do it. If your show doesn't cater to this certain demographic, we're not going to do it.
And for the
And
record, audience, I'm letting you know this now. This is not a new practice. This has been something like this for ages. Not just in cartoon shows or family shows. This for shows. Period. Um, Again, there's a lot of shows out there. Next this year is going to be premiering. They're going to have great ratings. But if a product don't sell on that time slot, which they look at more than they look at the rating themselves, it's gone. It's done. And Cartoon Network was notorious for that. And for good shows that were great, people talked about it. People did blogs about it. But because they didn't made millions of dollars in toy sales, oh well, it was great. But you know what? We're not making money, so goodbye.
exactly. And that's a shame too. I mean, that's the sad truth about trying to market your stuff over to a massive, place like Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network. It's like, if these things don't cater to what they're asking for, it's not going to work out. And, a lot of people feel devastated. It's like, I want to be able to pitch a show that I created, but then, oh, I think it was like, no, it's funny because I was just talking to a friend of mine who's saying like, oh, there's this one girl that I know in Chicago who is creating a show online, and she creates it out of cardboard, and she has like a whole bunch of freelance people in their spare time. They do this really nice show, and they make it out of cardboard. And then she goes over. Then she's met up with some guy who formerly worked on Nickelodeon. I don't know who he is because the guy, my friend, never told me who he was, for privacy's sake. And he was saying like, "Ooh, your show looks really nice. Tell you what, I can be able to help you post it into our network's official YouTube channel. All you have to do is just give me 52 episodes for me to run the show, and then we'll set you up with a nice, contract or whatever." And then she goes over to her husband saying like, "How am I going to be able to produce 52 episodes? I mean, I just do this on my spare time. I have a day job. I don't even know if it's going to work out. What am I going to do?" It's like, should I go for it or not? And it's like, What if they ask me to change, the way the story is? What if they ask me to do things that I'm not proud of or whatever? And that's the sad truth. It's that, you want something to go in this one direction, but then, and by the way, I didn't mean by one direction the band, haha. I meant by if you want it to be one way, and then, you know, corporate networks are going to say like you have to do it this way because we feel it caters to the kids. Bob Mithenall, the creator of Welcome Freshmen, the show that 1991 in Nickelodeon that nobody remembers because it was nothing more than just a Saved by the Bell ripoff. He wasn't happy with the show because it turned into something that he didn't even like. And that's the sad truth is that if a show is bad but you didn't want it to be bad, it's going to look bad on you, and it's going to be one of those things that people online are going to make fun of to death. If there's one thing that I learned when interviewing a lot of the people over in my podcast over the years is that sometimes, if a show doesn't go the way that you want it, or, in certain cases like Rugrats, if a show that you weren't a part of anymore and then it comes back and it makes like a whole bunch of money and it's more marketable and stuff like that, and, you know, it just, and it goes into a direction that you didn't want it to, it's hard because that's part of your creation and it just went into a direction that you weren't happy with. And it sucks, but if you want to be able to make a living off of it, you have to play by their rules. But if you want to play by your own rules, you don't know if it's going to be successful to you. You don't know if you're going to make a living off of it. But you know what? You could be able to do whatever you want, and that's one of the good things nowadays. Is that we have the internet. You want to create a show? Go out and create a show. Purchase Toon Boom or Flash or whatever, and draw your own cartoons, or hire a bunch of freelance artists to help you create it for you, or something like that. It's like do it. If you want to create something that nobody's doing, then do it. It's just, if you're going to be successful at it, or if you're going to make a living off of it, I mean, that's up to how the viewers perceive it. But that's the sad truth is that, corporate mandates are going to be able to take something and, for a lot of people, they're going to change it up if they feel that it's not going to be able to draw in a bunch of crowds. And and like in Young Justice case, is if it doesn't make a lot of money with merchandise, then yeah, I'm sorry, your show's going to be canceled.
And this for the record, this I have something else about this, and it's so true. And this is why there's such a bitterness between animators and some of the studios they work with even today. And it's kind of sad, and really, because of the situation and the story, the horror story that you hear, mostly from animation. When they agreed to do this, like sign on to a company, a good a good 60 to 70 or 80% of the time, it's no longer their property. They can do what they wish, and that's the thing that I think, especially with independent artists, is have to realize that once they sign on to it, you're gonna get a lot of studio meddling because they're investing money into it, so they're gonna feel it's theirs more than it's yours.
Exactly. I mean, it's like, oh, this is your show, but it's under our network. We're the one who's putting in our money. We're the one who's putting in, the space that you need to create your show. It's like, it's hard. I mean, that's a double-edged sword in which, you want to create something, but the problem is that, hey, they're the ones who are funding this for you. They're the ones who are giving you the space to create it. It's part of their shows as much as it's part of your show. And there are some cases in which, hey, we can be able to have a unity together in which, hey, you're going to give me the creative freedom that I want. I'm going to deliver a great show to you, and everybody's going to be happy. And for a lot of shows, that's like that, and a lot of people can appreciate it, and a lot of people can be able to make money off of it. I wish more. I wish that every show was like that. But the problem is that there aren't a lot of shows that are like that. There are shows that pander to the demographic. There are shows that are way too childish or way too mature or whatever. And as long as it makes them money and as long as it gives them the ratings that they need, they're going to do it. And for people that are sick and tired of Family Guy, for or they wanted to see more episodes of a particular show or whatever. And that would have been it would have been great. It would have been great. But it's sad because one way or another, it's all about what is the most profitable. Not
Hmm.
the one that is the most creative or whatever.
which brings me to what I want to talk about later. But before we go into that, we still got this thing here. Where do you see Cartoon Network doing now, especially with Adult Swim? What shows are going to be pretty much their vehicle? What shows are on their last legs? And what show that we shouldn't be falling asleep under their umbrella?
Hmm. Well, it's funny because I mean, the one show that a lot of people have been watching a lot on Adult Swim nowadays is Rick and Morty. Everybody's been going too crazy about Rick and Morty. And with Rick and Morty having another season confirmed coming out, I mean, that is like the show right now on Adult Swim that people have been keeping their eye on. And as
Hmm.
for shows that are on their last legs, I'm not sure to be quite honest. I mean, I know that there's let's see, I haven't heard anything about Robot Chicken in a while. I mean, I know that Seth Green is busy with a whole bunch of other projects, but let's see. As for anything else, I mean, to be quite honest, I mean, I'm not too crazy about some of the live action stuff that's on Adult Swim right now. Those kind of like sitcom shows that try to be humorous. I'm not a big fan of those. Um,
Hmm.
Other than that, yeah, I really don't have too much to say about Adult Swim. But yeah, I think that Rick and Morty is definitely going to be like the next vehicle for like Adult Swim because that show is drawing in so many people to watching it.
Interesting. Now let's get on to the show that I don't know if you heard about yet. I wanted to talk to you about this because I saw a poster of this and I'm staring at this poster. I'm wondering what the hell I'm looking at. I'm like, is this real? I recognize the character. And I think the last time they did something like this was Space Ghost Coast to Coast, which I actually gone used to. And it's called The Son of Zoran.
Hmm, I've never heard of that.
Do you wish to see the trailer?
Sure.
Okay, then hang on. All right, because I got to set this up. Now you're gonna have to do one thing. I don't know if you ever done this before. You have to when you see it. I'm gonna ask you if you see it or not. All right. It's
Okay.
actually kind of fascinating to me. And this is a Fox show. And look, I'm gonna give Fox credit where credit is due. I may not like some of their primetime adult-oriented anime shows as much as I would like. I think the Family Guy is a hit and miss with me. I think that's for most guys, most people who watch their show. I haven't got over the Brian incident, which ticked off a lot of people.
Yeah.
There was that was the shock value that you didn't need. But at times they do a lot of they. I give them credit for staying with that format, and they did put them in shows. I actually missed the critic.
I love The
You know,
Critic. I'm a huge fan of that show.
you know, can't say they did a good with that revival they try to do, but
Oh, we don't
I still.
talk about that.
I guess you watched it too, huh?
I remember when everybody was going crazy about, oh, The Critic's coming back, but it's going to be on a online exclusive site or something like that. And oh man, it did not turn out to be the one that I was hoping it would be. It reminds me. It also the same thing for the season.
On, you there?
Yeah, I'm
You
I'm
there?
looking at the trailer now.
Okay, so here's the. I'm gonna put this later, but you understand why I'm kind of fast because I know I've seen this cartoon show. It's why are you playing? I didn't tell you to play yet. Okay, so this is what it is called. Son of Zone. It's supposed to be on Fox, and I seen the poster of this. And I'm like, really, guys? We're going this way. Okay, I'll take it. But like I said, it's one of those things I'm kind of surprised because the last time they did something a hybrid like this was Space Ghost Coast to Coast. Now, Space Ghost is, of course, a Hanna-Barbera show. It's not a bad show. I actually kind of liked it. But they turned him, not only they revived the show, but they made him into a talk show.
Huh.
Which I don't know if you, yeah, they actually, it was on Cartoon Network.
Oh,
And
no,
he,
no, no, no. I know what you're talking about. I know about Space Coast Coast to Coast, but I'm saying like Son of Zorn is a talk show.
no, so it's not a talk show. I'm going to show you this trailer, okay?
Okay, okay. But yeah,
What
I
you
know
got to
I,
do
I
is,
know about Space Coast. Yeah.
yeah, I'm going to press, I'm going to press to talk. You got to press to talk too, because that's the only way they can hear the sound from the background, because it's not going to show on the screen. All right.
Okay. Push to talk. Got it.
All right. So I'm gonna play it now, and I want to give you a thoughts on what we've seen because it's very fascinating. Are you ready?
Yep. Let's do this. Okay. Bunch of people. Oh. Okay. What is He-Man doing on the airport?
I'm gonna pause here for a minute. This is now when you look at it from the beginning, you don't think that this is gonna pop out of nowhere.
No, I did
You
not.
just don't. Now I'm looking at this. I recognize this show. This is one time where this type of character, this masculine fellow, is a big thing. You know what I mean? I mean, you had the He-Man. You had some other shows I can't name, I can't remember, but I remember Zorn. I remember seeing a show. I don't remember every episode, but I remember seeing it. So when I saw this, it just stunned me. But it's not. This is just the beginning. Are you ready to see what this is all about?
Oh boy. Okay. Let's do the rest.
I'm still surprised this exists. You haven't seen this.
No, I've never seen this.
This is your first time seeing this trailer for this TV show.
Yes, this is the first time I've seen this.
So this is like you're totally stunned by this.
Yes.
I thought you did. I'm like, oh, we get to talk about
I've
this
never,
one.
I swear to you, I have never seen this.
I caught you by surprise. Then my bad.
Let's. Wow. I mean, this is. I mean, they're just treating this so seriously. I mean, you have this He-Man looking guy talking to live action characters. It's what? I mean, I mean, I could see something like this in Adult Swim, but on Fox, really?
Yep, this is a Fox show. And I was stunned. I'm telling you, I walked down because I live in the Bronx now. I'm walking down to Starbucks, and I glance and I have to stop, and I'm like, what am I looking at? I'm like, there's a cartoon character. Zorn. I know what Zorn was. I know there was a based on an actual cartoon show, but I'm like looking at this, and I'm like, something is off. Son of Zorn. I'm seeing a cartoon character in a bunch of live action shows. What are they trying to tell me here? And
I
then I'm gonna play the trailer. We're gonna continue, and we'll talk some more after as the trailer goes on.
All right.
But yeah, you know what he reminds me of?
What?
Sammy Davis Jr. I kid you not. I thought that way. Sammy, you alive?
Oh, wow.
This is like this. I'm telling you, when I saw it, I said, this can't be real. I mean, somebody's gonna say April Fools. So this can't be real, but they have posters. I can go right across the street right now and look at the poster. And you
Jeez.
just finding out about this. That's amazing. This is awesome.
Thanks.
I'm gonna continue. That's the first thing that's what I said when I saw the show. What is happening here? I take it this is not a kids show,
I don't think so. I mean, yeah, I don't think so. I don't think this is a kid's show at all. I
but
mean,
man, oh
yeah,
man, this is something else. I gotta give credit where credit's due. This is definitely something else. All
I'll say.
right, let me finish this trailer up.
I have nothing to say right now.
I must have missed that part.
I'm speechless right now.
I thought you saw.
So,
I'm sorry. I thought you saw this.
I'm serious. I've never seen this. So, let me see if I can understand this. So, we have this He-Man looking guy in a live action world, and apparently there's no other cartoon characters that are like him, and he's the only one. I mean, that doesn't really make any sense. I mean, it kind of reminds me of Alf, in which he's, an alien who lands on Earth, or Cousin Skeeter, in which, he's like the only puppet and surrounded by live action people. It's like, what? I mean, okay.
Again, I thought you seen this,
Again,
and
I
when you
have
said
never
you,
seen this.
I said, "Oh, so I guess you're gonna have an honest." I don't even know how you. How would you? Because when I saw that, I'm like, how is this gonna work? How would this
Uh,
actually work? You don't have no answer to this. Is it like amazing?
I don't. I mean, again, this would be something I would see on Adult Swim, not on Fox.
Obviously, Fox said, "You know what? If Adult Swim can do it, we can do it too."
I mean, I guess they were so sick and tired of doing Family Guy and The Simpsons that they thought, you know what, let's see if we could do something different. And man, did they go something different.
But the thing about this that really bugs me about this is the kid is his son. How?
I'm, and the thing is that it's called Son of Zorn. His name is
Yes.
Zorn, and so is it about the son? Is that what? I mean, the focus should be about him, not the guy. I don't even know. I don't have no clue. I mean, I'm putting a whole bunch of my thought into this trailer. That's I don't know.
Oh man, I'll give you something to look at when this show comes on the air.
I'll see.
I'm there. Again, I just thought I assumed that you heard about this and it never showed up on this on this program. So I said, oh well, either she didn't heard about it as, or yeah, I can see why. But it says here the animated warrior from a faraway island of the Pacific Ocean returns to Orange County, California to win back his live action ex-wife and teenage son.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. You can follow. It has. Here's the thing. It says here the featuring the voice of Jason Stalusky,
Mm-hmm.
Sudeikis.
Okay.
That's one of the voices. His he actually has been in a couple of movies. Last Man on Earth, Horrible Bosses, We're the Millers. It says here that Sons of Zorn is a new hybrid live action animation comedy about animated warrior from a faraway land of the Pacific Ocean where everything and everyone is animated. finally to win back his live action ex-wife and teenage son. Zoran Zelensky is a defender of. I'm seeing this show on. This is the cartoon show. I've seen this. I don't know what else to say. I'm reading. I'm seeing. Says there's some people actually is looking forward to the show, probably out of curiosity. Uh, but yeah, I'm like, it's one of those trailers that you just gotta ask yourself, have we really gone to this level now?
Jeez. I mean, just it. I guess this is what Fox is saying. Like, let's see if we can take a shot at doing something different. And you know what? I mean, it's certainly different. That's for sure.
It's definitely something that, again, I have to really look at the posters and ask myself, what are they doing? And I have to find, because it took me a while to find the name. I actually got the name wrong a couple of times, and I finally said, you know what, Fox, Son, and I found it, and it was like, okay, this is different. This is definitely something worth talking about when we have this market. But
Yeah.
honestly, I'm giving it a shot because it is different. I just hope it's not Cool World different. You're not. That's what I'm afraid
Which,
of.
which one?
Cool World.
Oh, yes, yes. I do remember Cool World. And Candy Milo, who was the voice of Lynette, was talking to me about her experiences working on Cool World when she came over to my podcast, and she was talking to me about seeing a lot of the artists coming in and doing the animation work, and Ralph Bakshi talking about everybody had to get into their spots. And there was this one instance in which she was pregnant with her daughter, and she was wanting some water to drink because it was hot. And then she remembers seeing an Evian bottle, and she wanted to get some from a cooler. And then one of the the I think it was one of the people who was working on the movie was saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, you can't have that. That's for Miss Basinger's hair." And Candy was so upset about it, saying you know what, from even still to this day, I have never seen a movie that Kim Basinger has ever been in. And when Bakshi heard about this, he said, he got the cooler, and he said, have all the water you want. And Cool World, the movie itself, it's crazy. It's like, hey, let's take the concept of Roger Rabbit and make it even more insane. And let's not make the story make any sense. But then again, that's Bakshi in a nutshell. It's like you can respect the guy, but I don't know. I mean, just his style is just really out there. And I give him credit because in a time in which animation was pretty much at the lowest point, him and Don Bluth were the only people who said, you know what, let's take animation seriously for a different demographic. It's like, you know what, I respect him for that, but man, is this stuff really out there?
Yeah, and you know what? I'll be honest with you. It's one of the movies I just simply can't stand. I have a list of that film. I just can't stand that film. I knew what they were trying to do. It didn't work. It didn't know what to be for kids. It didn't know what to be for adults. But it was just bad script writing. And you know what's funny? It took me a while to realize that was Brad Pitt in that movie.
Yep.
I didn't even realize he was in that movie. Like, oh, thank God I don't remember you in that movie because that was not a good movie at all.
Nope.
And I think, and that's why I think we'll never see that Roger Rabbit sequel that Robert Zemeckis trying to get off the ground.
I mean, it's just crazy,
Now, this is one of the videos. Normally, I do video of the week now with Josh. And there's something here that's actually brought my attention, and I actually want to hear your opinion on this because I know you're going to disagree with this video. But here's the thing. Before I do that, I'm gonna give you a couple of shows that I feel that because Fox again, it's kind of hard because most of the animation is not, like we all said, not catered towards children. So rather than just try to make it look like they're for children when they're really not, I just gotta go on a limb and ask for one thing. One, did they cancel Futurama too soon? Two, do Simpsons need to go? Three, did they make the right choice of bringing back Family Guy? And 4, Is American Dad overrated and is nowhere near close as King of the Hill?
Oh, okay. Let's start off with the first one. Did they cancel Futurama too soon? Are you talking about like canceling Futurama too soon in its first run or in its second run?
Just in general. What about the
Hmm.
first run?
I love the first run of Futurama. Futurama is like one of my all-time favorite shows. And as for if it canceled too soon, I mean, I would have loved to have seen more stuff out of it. And it's like it had a really good run, but it just got canceled. And I would have loved to have seen more of it. And then when Bender's Big Score came out, and then all the other movies came out, it's like, yeah, I mean, they still have their chops and they're able to do some new things with it. It's like, I feel, in my opinion, that when you have a revival, it's like it's the equivalent of having like one shot in which we can be able to do the episodes that we didn't want to do, and let's see if we can make better of it. And with Futurama's case, they did, and not a lot of them worked out, but for the most part, they still show that what we can still be just as great, in the second time as we were in the first time. And you know what? It's like, um, as for where it is right now, as much as I would love to say I want more Futurama, I'm glad where it is right now because at least with Futurama, it's a show that we can look back on with fondness as opposed to like, when looking back on a show that ran too long, it's like, the first few seasons were great, but then it starts becoming like garbage like much later. So at least Futurama has a bigger legacy to withhold on, at least nowadays, compared to like The Simpsons, in which the show was just, it's what many people consider to be zombie TV, in which it's a show that pretty much you can't kill no matter how much you try, and not a lot of people are invested in it. And this is from somebody who was a major Simpsons fan. And what was the
Uh,
second question?
Simpson should just go away. Should just be
Yes,
canceled now.
it needs to go now. It's been almost what, like almost 30 years now. It needs to go. I mean, I don't get me wrong, I love The Simpsons. I recently met with Nancy Cartwright. She's a really nice woman. But man, I mean, the creativity that The Simpsons once had, it's just not there anymore. And occasionally they would have like an episode or two that would be nice. And the Treehouse of Horrors is always fun to watch every year, but it just I think it needs to go. I think that let's leave it on a nice high note and then just stop the show and then just let somebody else come over and do something different. That's why a lot of people are saying like The Simpsons is just nobody's watching it anymore. It's like who's watching The Simpsons nowadays? It's like yeah, I mean
I'll tell you this. What turned me off, and I never thought it did, and for some reason it was the biggest epic thing they did. It was an hour long, and it was probably the most disappointing crossover I've probably ever seen, and that was The Simpsons. At least in my opinion, I didn't think it was that great of a crossover. The Simpsons and the Family Guy.
it's it was all right.
Yeah, I
I
expected
mean,
better.
yeah, it was.
I really
I
did.
mean, yeah, I mean, it wasn't that great, but it wasn't horrible. But it was just, eh. You would expect it to be a lot better, that's for sure. Especially if you have these two major Fox sitcoms coming together. So yeah, it wasn't that great.
Wise decision to bring back Family Guy.
You know, the first time when
That's a mixed bag.
yeah, here's the thing. It's like, the first time in which Family Guy was running and nobody watched it, and then the show was canceled, and then it got revived again when everybody started watching it on Adult Swim. The episode started off really well, and then as time went on, it just, again, similar to The Simpsons, it just went in a different direction that people are just saying, like, why won't this show end? And granted, I mean, I like Family Guy. I'm not a massive fan of Family Guy. I mean, I do like the show in its earlier run. I mean, every time that my cousins would come over, they would love watching Family Guy. But but then I think it was like on Netflix or something, and they were watching like a later episode, and they were like saying like, "This isn't funny." It's like, why isn't this funny? And then it's like I guess when a show runs for so long, and the characters are thinking about like doing a whole bunch of insulting things to try to make it feel funny, it just becomes stale after a while. I think somebody on Twitter once posted is like what made Family Guy funny the first time is that, they would do something like, they would say something insulting, then they forget all about it, and then they move on to the next thing. It's like, it was shocking back then. But now that, more shows are becoming like Family Guy, it's not as shocking anymore. And then it just goes into being more insulting than anything, and it's just not funny anymore. And, then for a
And,
long time,
and to add and to add something that you just said here, I think the thing that I think that Family Guy forgot, it probably would have had it probably would be have more of a quality if they were done with South Park. Like South Park, they're insulting regardless, but they're very creative for how they do it. It's not like
well, here's the thing with between South Park and Family Guy, it's completely different. You see, with South Park, the reason how South Park is able to become relevant whenever they do an episode is that they only have a few days to do it. It's like, they do the animation in Flash, and, they work on a script on this day, then they do the voice acting, they animate it, and then the week later, it's out. With Family Guy, it takes months to do an episode, maybe even a year to do an episode. And then when something comes out and it becomes like dated when the episode airs, it's like it kind of looks very awkward. And then when an episode comes out and if
outdated.
it's insulting, it just doesn't it doesn't bear out very well. I mean, South Park is different, in which they can release a new episode within a week. Family Guy's a whole different beast entirely, and it's just, yeah, I mean, it's funny to be, with the difference between that. But, with South Park, from what I've been hearing, people were getting sick of South Park for a very long time. And, that's mostly because that Trey and Matt were doing different priorities. Like, they were working on Book of Mormon, they were working on the South Park video game, and they didn't have a lot of time to, put in a lot of effort into the TV series. And then, when they started having more time to do the TV series, then it started becoming good again, and they started talking about more relatable things that's going on in this world. So, with Family Guy, on the other hand, it's like I think not. I think even Seth MacFarlane even said he doesn't even want to do it anymore. He wants to be able to do something different, but unfortunately, because Family Guy is becoming such a massive success, it's like with SpongeBob, in which you can't take it down because it'll be a major loss for the network. I mean, just like not, I mean, Bob's Burgers, for example. Bob's Burgers doesn't bring in the kind of numbers that Family Guy brings in, or The Simpsons. So, I mean, we'll just see if Son of Zorn will be able to bring in those.
You can't get it. Now, here's the thing that I'm still surprised that people are debating this because it hasn't been on the air for a minute, but it seemed like people are really upset with American Dad. And they say it's overrated and they should have kept King of the Hill. What's your take on this?
King of the Hill, okay. I mean, King of the Hill is a show that I do respect and I do enjoy from time to time, but it started getting stale around the later seasons, and they did some things that I wasn't really too crazy about, like killing off Cotton and Luann getting married to Lucky and him becoming a more prominent character. And it just, it basically just was like getting stale and trying to do some new things that didn't really work out. And with King of the Hill, I mean, what was it like? Mike Judge, he left around the later seasons. I think he left around season 6 or 7, and then he became an executive producer, and the episodes just weren't the same as much anymore. And American Dad, American Dad's okay. I mean, it's a pretty decent show at times, and because it's not as big as Family Guy, and it's more consistent with its humor, and it knows what it wants to be. A lot of people are saying like, oh, it's better than Family Guy. I think it's the point at which the reason why American Dad is becoming good for a lot of people is because Family Guy's gotten really bad. And if it's overrated, I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, I know that a lot of people, they don't really like American Dad, but I don't see any problems with it. And I know a lot of people like American Dad, and it's like, it's fine. It's fine. I mean, I don't think it's overrated. I think it's just the fact that the reason why American Dad is becoming is becoming what many people say is a lot more better than Family Guy is because, not only was American Dad a lot more consistent with what it wanted to be, but because Family Guy is just dragging itself way too far into the ground. So, I mean, American Dad hasn't done anything that insulting compared to what Family Guy did with like killing off Brian and all those other things that they try to do to make people care about the show again. So, Yeah, that's all I have to say about it.
Hmm. Now, do you see Fox actually? Well, obviously they're not because we got that that trailer that tells us that they're not tending to move away from anytime soon. But do you feel that they're at one point they're gonna say, okay, we've done the prime time animation thing, it ran its course, or do you think they're gonna keep going because there's still an audience that still enjoys the prime time showing?
I mean, yeah, that's probably what they're gonna do because if it still makes them a lot of money. But I would love them to branch out and do new things. I mean, they've already tried to do other things like there was that one show that was like that one sci-fi show or something like that that a lot of people love, but then Fox canceled, and it's like, oh, typical Fox. It's like that's the thing is that Fox, whenever they try to do a new show and it's not up to what their expectations are, but people still love it, and then the show gets canceled, it's like a lot of people can't really trust on Fox for that. It's like, with with Firefly, and then that other show that I don't remember what the title is, but it came out
I
a few years
remember. I know who the star was, so I know what you're talking about because Josh Kim was like always happy when they actually have it every season. Well, it
Yeah,
had a good
yeah.
run though.
Yeah, I did, but a
I
lot of
think
people wanted more. And, for a
it's
lot of
Fragment,
people, yeah, that's what it was. Fragment, thank you. So, yeah, Fragment.
Fringe. Sorry,
No, no, Fringe. Yes, you're right, Fringe. So,
Fringe.
yeah, Fringe, a lot of people were loving Fringe. And then when it, got canceled from Fox, it's like, oh, there goes Fox again, canceling another good show. And it's like, I mean, they make a lot of money with prime time, and they make a lot of money with doing the Super Bowl and stuff like that. It's like, it would be nice if maybe Fox would take more chances in doing more shows like that. But I mean, I'm hoping that they'll be able to branch out more. But with what we saw so far with Son of Zorn, we'll just
Well,
see.
to be fair, they are. There's been rumors that they want to bring back a Canadian high school drama, which I actually seen on the WB/CW. I the name keeps escaping because it's a very weird name, but it's a Canadian TV series. It's a high school Canadian. They made three different versions of it, I believe. It's a very surprisingly good show, and they want to bring that back. I don't know if that's going to work. So it
Hmm.
looks like they're trying to cater more to the young audience at the same time. I just don't want to see another Family Matters. That's all I care about. As long as you don't leave those shows alone, I'll be all right. Um, yeah, but I agree with you. I think the money wise, I don't think they've gone anywhere. I, I kind of wish they move away from the gross humor because sometimes I think they just do it just to show shock value, and sometimes it don't work.
I think because of shows like Rick and Morty coming out, I think we're getting into the point in which let's not make a lot of these adult cartoons like trying to be the next Family Guy because for the longest time that was what they want that these adult cartoons wanted to be. They wanted to be the next Family Guy, they wanted to be the next South Park in which it was all about gross and shocking humor. That's all they wanted to be. They wanted to shock people
But
just for the sake of being shocking.
so what's your feeling on the Boondocks? Have you ever seen that show?
Oh yes, I have seen the Boondocks. The Boondocks is different because I know it's has a lot of shocking humor, but the thing is, what makes it so different was that it's able to become it has smart characters and it's able to tell a perspective that you don't really hear a lot of before. And I'm not talking about like that. I'm talking about like like Brickleberry or Mr. Pickles or something like that, in which we're just gonna make shows that are shocking and we're just gonna have all these disgusting moments or whatever, like animals having sex or a dog basically being like um the embodiment of Satan and killing everybody or something like that. It's like that's not funny, and it's just insulting, and it's like something like the Boondocks is great because you have a character like Huey who comes along and says like this is what how black people are compared to white people, and you know our ways of living is different and so on and so forth, and it's told in a in a shocking way a lot of the times, but it's also being brutally honest for a lot of the things that are going on in this world, and that's perfectly fine. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like the other more lesser um, quality programs like Brickleberry or Mr. Pickles.
Hmm. So here's the thing. Here's the one thing I wanted to hear your opinion on. Have kid comedies, and I'm talking about Melon Melodies, aka Looney Tunes, Tiny Toons, Animaniacs, Freakazoid. Are they extinct now? We're never going to see that type of animation again. Is there any
Um,
room for them anymore in this world, or have we
I
gone
mean,
too PC? We can't.
when we were talking earlier about everything being all PC, I mean, it's funny because we've had the Looney Tunes show and we've had Wabbit, and a lot of people say that, oh, it's not as good, but I think it's different. I mean, we can't make jokes about the Japanese anymore in World War II or whatever. We can't make jokes about like Native Americans saying like how or whatever. It's like and we can't
I,
have
I
that kind of stuff.
understand that, but honestly, I don't think they should put them in a vault so nobody can see either. I think that's those slapsticks. Those I like to call the golden age of cartoons. Which let's be honest, if you look at history, it wasn't for kids anyway. Bugs Bunny was not a kids cartoon. You can't tell me because I've seen some of the episodes and it still shocked me to this day. But I think it's necessary to show how cartoons were and how much have changed over the years. I don't think putting in a vote is just gonna is good. I don't think that should be done. I think it should be done. If for anything else, educational, historical things. Say, hey, this is what cartoons were, and this is where we are right now. And I think that there should be room for to show that hey, this happened. Because hey, the stuff they did back in the days in the 30s and 40s is crazy. I'm not even talking about Bugs Bunny. I'm talking about Felix the Cat.
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, and nowadays, because we have animation historians releasing DVDs talking about this kind of stuff, saying, like, this is how it was back in the day. Disney's done that as well with their cartoons. And, yeah, I mean, it's always great to look back on it historical wise. I mean, as for doing a, cartoon with those kind of stereotypes nowadays, not really, but if you're talking about like, the way the Tiny Toons and Animaniacs was, in which it was like slapstick comedy, then absolutely, yeah. I mean, especially those kind of cartoons because they were appealing to both the kids and for the adults, in which it had the slapstick humor, it had the adult jokes, it had the fun characters and the great animation. Yeah, I would love to see more of those. I mean, with the guys behind Animaniacs, they did the 7Ds, and that worked out pretty good. And yeah, I think there's definitely more room for it. I mean, The Tick is getting a live action series on Netflix, and a lot of people are excited for that.
Again?
So
They're
yeah,
bringing it back.
again, yeah,
Oh
they're
yes.
back. They just released it a few days ago. Yes.
Who playing them? Is it
Um,
the same guy who played them before?
no, it's not Patrick Warburton.
Oh, he
Yeah,
was good.
yeah, I know. A lot of people were disappointed. They wanted to see Patrick Warburton back as the Tick. Let me see if I can remember who is doing the new one nowadays. I haven't seen it. I just saw the announcement of it. Let's see if I
I'll
remember.
watch that. I'll make it my business to find out because I love the cartoon show and I was surprised at how well done they did the live action show. I'm like, oh, this is good, and it canceled. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah.
This works.
Oh wait. No, it's not Netflix. It's not Netflix. I'm sorry. Amazon. Amazon. That's what it was. Amazon.
Amazon Prime.
Yeah, Amazon Prime. That's it. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I confused it with something else. So yeah. Let's see if I remember who. I mean, I just heard about it a few days ago, so I really don't know who is going to be the. Let's see. Oh. Oh wow. I mean, actually, yeah. Patrick Warburton is actually back as the Tick. Never mind.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah. I mean, they're going to
It's
have
been a
like.
while. I've seen him in a while too. I was actually wondering what he was doing, but now I know that he's playing the Tick. I was like, oh great. I'm zooming in because he was good.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's just couldn't understand why they canceled it. I just didn't understand it. So it's on
Hmm.
Amazon. I'm definitely gonna be looking for it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's on. Yeah. It should be. I haven't seen it either, so it should be interesting.
Definitely. But that's the kind of thing I feel that's been missing, and
Oh.
it's kind of funny because the reason why you don't see Bugs Bunny cartoons on live on free TV, at least see on this TV that I'm used to seeing it, is because parents was complaining. They waited till 1999 to complain about Bugs Bunny and Friends. I don't understand. I really don't.
Oh wait, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I'm just looking at this new article right here. The Tick is not done by Patrick Warburton. It's done by Peter Serafinowicz.
Who is he?
I don't know. I'm just looking at this article right now. I've never seen this. I've never seen this Amazon version of the Tick. I just heard about it a few days ago. But yeah,
I'll watch it anyway.
yeah. And apparently, like Arthur is played by Griffin Newman, and yeah, it says like it's. They said that it's pretty good. So maybe I'll take a look into it. Again, it was only released a few days ago, so
Now,
I'll take a look into it.
I'm kind of curious how many episodes they've done because I know they did a binge. I know it's doing binge episode now.
I'm not sure. I think they were planning on doing like 9 episodes on Amazon. I think so. I'm not sure.
They're doing what they call a test run season.
Yeah.
To see if it will pick up, and then they try to order more. So they're being cautious. I can't really blame them. Yeah, so that's interesting to know. I didn't realize they was reviving it. The people have been asking for it for years.
I know everybody's been asking for it for a long time.
Yeah, so that's good to know. All right, so I got another video to show you. You might not like this one, but then again, it's up to debate because you can actually disagree about this one. I want to hear your opinion on this.
Okay.
What's up? All right, and then we talk about the Ghostbusters because I really want to see your opinion on that one.
Okay.
So you're not gonna like the title of this, but you know what? Maybe it's best that we do talk about this because I'm actually kind of curious what this person had to say. We probably won't go too deep into details. I should have checked the time strain on it, but
Well, I'm sure
give me a
we'll
minute.
watch a lot into it. I'm sure maybe we'll get the gist of it.
Uh huh. Let me just get the copy of the URL. This is done by Sav Spark. I've seen this stuff before. He does a good job. So I'm not worried about what he says, but it is an opinionated thing. But like I said, opinionated things are always good to talk about because we can actually disagree or agree what he says depending on what he's bringing out.
Okay.
Let me just go add this to the playlist. Search for it. Okay. Now I'm at the pause this for a second. Same. I got. Oh, I forgot. I got changed it. For some reason I didn't change it. Okay, that's probably why. Come on now. Okay, there we go. All right. So this is very fascinating. And it involves what ruined Nickelodeon.
Oh, I've actually seen this video before.
Oh, okay. So you're not gonna be surprised too much.
No, I've already seen it before. Yeah, somebody already linked it to me. Sorry, it's a guy done by. I think it was yeah. I was shown the video before, so I have seen it.
So what's your feeling when he says? I'm not gonna even bother playing it. You've seen it already.
Yes, I have, and you know, it's funny because he was partly right when he was talking about like, it was taken over by, Nickelodeon growing up into be more of a corporate business. He was partly right because he actually got that source from Slime and Oral History of Nickelodeon's Golden Age, and a lot of people basically agreed. As for whether SpongeBob was the one who took it over, I mean, I guess it's kind of like what we were discussing about with like Sesame Street and Elmo, in which when everybody, so it's like um for Elmo, he was the one that saved Sesame Street before getting canceled, but at the same time, fans of Sesame Street didn't like Elmo. I guess it's like with SpongeBob, in which, with SpongeBob basically like taking over, and he makes like a whole bunch of money, and then all the other Nickelodeon shows just didn't matter. It was like that for a while, in which as soon as like 2006 came along, in which there was a lot of changes with like the people who were running Nickelodeon, and not to mention that a lot of the other programming was just starting to change. It just went in a different direction, in which like even if a show came out, it didn't really matter if it was a success or a failure because SpongeBob made like a whole bunch of money for them. Like, you don't hear people talking about like shows like LT Gray or The X's or Cat Scratch because those are shows that were on for like maybe
like a season or two, and if they didn't matter, then that's okay because SpongeBob basically was like everywhere. And I can, and from his perspective, I understand because for a long time, SpongeBob and a lot of the Dan Schneider shows pretty much took over, in which, they were all over the commercials, they were all over the merchandise, and, Nickelodeon was not about like one character and then basically, everybody else was just on the side. It was all a balance of, shows that were animated and shows that were live action. No show took over. And, it's funny because, he was mentioning about like, oh, but Rugrats, when I was a kid, Rugrats was the one that, was the most popular show. It's like, yes, but even Rugrats went through a state in which it was getting stale, like preschool days. But, with Rugrats, it had its fair moments of, ideas that didn't work out. Like, I wasn't too crazy about the additional characters, and the episodes just weren't as creative as the earlier run. But, I mean, I agreed with some of the stuff that he stated, and he did, back up his opinions with, facts from the slime book, and um, but for the most part, if it was SpongeBob that ruined it, I mean, I can see from his perspective because SpongeBob took over, and none of the other shows mattered. I mean, even the way that Nickelodeon treated Legend of Korra in the day, in which they just wanted to push out those episodes, and and then eventually they just stopped airing Legend of Korra, and they decided to make it like an online exclusive or whatever. It's like it's just like they didn't care, and it's like, oh, we're gonna just worry about SpongeBob now. It's like, I mean, it's unfortunate, to be quite honest, but I think that Nickelodeon's starting to understand that there's more to Nickelodeon than just SpongeBob. And they're starting to branch out with Harvey Beaks and the Loud House, and to become successful for it. And to be fair, the later 2000s shows were not that great anyway. And it's like it was like for SpongeBob, it's like that was their lifesaver. And it's like let's not worry about our quality for the other shows because SpongeBob is going to be able to make our money. Like nobody
Well,
watched the other stuff, and I'm just it's like it's a shame that that it happened, but a lot of people, the people who ran Nickelodeon, during the 80s and 90s, they left in the late 90s because they felt that Nickelodeon was just growing too much of a corporate company, and they went off to Disney. Even Geraldine Labourne, the
well,
president of Nickelodeon, went off to do Disney.
well. Here's the thing about that, and I go by what's happening to Channel Rising, Channel Four, and even Channel Two to an extent. You can only do a brand for so long before it actually drags your network down the mud. Channel
Yeah,
Four. I mean, the one thing I always felt they kept doing, and it's amazing how they got caught in the riff, especially from the money slot, is they kept relying on Law and Order. If it was not Law and Order, it was Law and Order SVU, which is still on the air, surprisingly. Not SVU, Law and Order Criminal Intent. Then you had the Law and Order Trial by Jury. You have Law and Order CI. You have Law and Order Los Angeles, didn't even last long. I ain't saying nothing about the other shows. Law and Order every day. And that got to the point where they said, you know what? We're in trouble now because we had no other show they can do. They tried doing a talk show, didn't work. They just got caught in the rough. Now CBS is going through that, where this is going to be the first full season where there will be no CSI ever, and they are pretty much messed up because they don't really have that many shows to fill that time slot.
I
And I
mean, it
think
was
this,
like that, for a while for other things too. I mean, it's like the problem is that when you rely on one show, it's going to basically stagnate all the other shows, and then if you don't have that show anymore, you're not going to have anything to stand on. And throughout the late 2000s, that was the same thing for Nickelodeon, in which I mean, all the other animated shows, they just weren't up to snuff with SpongeBob. I mean, they were all either mediocre or they were bad or they just never really caught on. Like, for example, like, they were hoping that Fanboy and Chum Chum and Breadwinners was going to be the next big hit, and it was going to be the next SpongeBob, but no, it turned out to be one of the worst shows ever. And they were like, oh, what do we do? Let's rely on SpongeBob again. It's like, it's a shame that,
that was what happened to Nickelodeon for almost a decade. But now it's different now, in which we can still have SpongeBob, but we can have the Loud House, and we can have Harvey Beaks, and it was the same thing with Fox. It's like, oh, we have Family Guy, but oh wait, no, we don't have to rely only on Family Guy. We have Bob's Burgers, and the same thing with like Cartoon Network. It's like, oh, we're gonna rely on experimenting with all these other shows on Adult Swim that are trying to be like Family Guy clones. But no, we have Rick and Morty that came out, and like we were saying before about like CBS having CSI and so on and so forth. It's like as for a while, it does start getting very, very tired. But then when something new comes along, it becomes a big hit again. And so the point is that we're kind of hypocrites too, in which if we love seeing something, we'll just watch it over and over again, and then we complain about it because it's lasting for too long. It's like, why is it lasting too long? Because we're the ones watching it. So yeah, I mean, it's very complicated, but I'm glad that more people are open-minded to saying like we want to see more variety in our programs.
Yeah, and I think that's the way it should be. It's say, hey, look, we've seen CSI yesterday. I saw another CSI show the other day. I'm seeing CSI show tomorrow. Is there anything else other than that, or are we going to keep going for the same thing?
Right.
So that's the whole thing I'm always wondering. I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving until I at least give you one video to talk about, and I found one. I don't know if you watched Danger Dolan.
Hmm. What was it?
Danger Dolan, or Planet Dolan, like we call it these
Oh,
days.
I think I've heard of that guy. No, I have not seen it. I've heard of
Okay.
that guy though. I think he does like these kind of lists or something, talking
Yes,
about
he
like
does.
programs or something.
Yes, he does. I'm gonna save this for later, but I want to give you a take on this because I don't want to forget because I was very, very curious about your feeling on the Ghostbusters movie. I don't know if you've seen it or not.
I have not.
Um, Gave my fair, honest feel on it because this film is bombing, and they had a whole thing for it. They was going to do a universal expansion of Ghostbusters. They were even talking about cartoons for Ghostbusters. They was really having high hopes of this one movie that the moment it was announced about the casting has had been ridiculed. And to be fair, some of it was unjust, but it was just ridiculed to the point when the film finally came out. Even though, and I said this in my independent video before talking to you about this, it did had a fairly positive review. I mean, the critics, it has a 79%, and the critics, for the most part, have said some good things about this movie. However, those are the critics. That's not the fan base. That's not the moviegoers. Moviegoers have a different view on films than the critics does. And they wasn't too happy, both male and female. However, that's beside the point. This film is bombing. The film cost almost 150 million. They only made 100. They only made 130 million. It's not going to reach its budget. The projection goal was 500 million, and so far, if you count all the global receipts, it made 143 million dollars.
Hmm.
So
So I and also I heard that they were going to be doing a sequel, but that also just wasn't going to happen either because of that they didn't make enough money.
the thing is, this may actually tarnish anything in terms of the because I actually want to see if they're going to do another animation. I actually am looking for. I actually want to see another animation, but now I see. I can. I don't think that Sony is going to go and say we're going to scrap everything. What I think they're going to do is I think they're going to do what the other studios have done with Planet of the Apes. They're going to put on hands for a while and reboot it again, only do it this time with more creativity than what they did with this one. Because I'm going to be honest with you, the cast was not the real problem. I saw the potential. The comedy was a more missed and hit, and it reminded me of watching the first Ghostbusters film. Which you think they would learn from making the second Ghostbusters film, but then again, this is This is the problem with Ghostbusters in general.
I mean, it's funny that out of all the reboots, remakes that Hollywood has done with their movies, it's Ghostbusters that gotten so many people so angry. Not Planet of the Apes, not even Jim and the Holograms, but Ghostbusters. And I just thought, I mean, at first I saw the trailer and I was like, the trailer is not the greatest, but I've seen terrible trailers for great movies before, and I'm not going to go too crazy about it. So, and then I saw the backlash that everybody was making of, like, this was going to be the worst thing ever. And then when James Roll posted his video, and I'm not going to do a review on the Ghostbusters movie, I refuse. And everybody was like agreeing with him. A lot of people were disagreeing with him. It's like, I was like, this is getting out of hand. And then Candy Milo and I were talking about, like, everybody's making a big deal about this Ghostbusters movie only because, oh, it has a female cast. And it's like, I'm not angry about a female Ghostbusters gang. I mean, remember when the real Ghostbusters happened and Janine became, or what about Extreme Ghostbusters? I mean, did they forget that there were actually female Ghostbusters? I mean, it's just like, and then I saw this one post about, a bunch of little girls who were excited about meeting the cast. And I was like, you know what? I mean, I'm really happy for that. I'm happy for a Ghostbusters for a new generation. And I'm not understanding why everybody was just getting so up in arms. It's like, if the movie's the worst in the world, I mean, if this movie's like really bad, then hey, it's a bad Ghostbusters movie. If the movie turns out good, then that's great. I mean, it's probably not going to be living up to the legacy of the original, but at least it was good. And long story short, it was good. It's not going to make and it's a shame that it's not going to make the amount of money so they can do another, more, movies or expand them, to a bigger franchise. But you know what? It's like, hey, it's over already. So we can just go on with our lives. We don't have to worry about Ghostbusters. It turned out okay. It didn't turn out like fantastic as far as I heard from the critics, but you know what? It wasn't like the end of the world like everybody made it out to be. So I
Yeah,
never was angry about it.
I agree. And here's the thing: I think it is a little bit of both what you're saying. I think that the sexism is a did play a big role in it because let's be honest, a lot of people just judged the film before it came out. Like I said, I didn't think it was the worst in the world, but the problem with what I felt was in terms of me is it would have probably worked it better have it was allowed to stand on its own. And that was the big problem with this movie. It wasn't allowed to stand on its own. They had the chemistry, but it was forced to make jokes that didn't really connect. They was trying to, to be their own, but they kept reminding me of past. You didn't need to have all these cameos of the old cast. The only thing you did was remind me I should be watching the old Ghostbuster film. And that was the whole thing. It was like, there's a difference between remaking it new and then remaking it where it's the exact carbon copy of the original Ghostbusters. You just added more sparkly special effects. And that was my thing about the film. Like I said, it's not terrible. It's not great. I don't think it deserved the bashing that it's got. Question of this thing about the all female cast and why I feel that there's still this sexism that still goes on in Hollywood right now that I think that many people need to seriously address because that's what I felt that reason why this film has failed.
Yeah, and that's a shame too. I mean, just I wish that it would have turned out for the best, and I wish that it would have, branched out into something completely new. But I guess maybe because they wanted to play it safe, they had to, see if they can be able to generate towards the people who were fans as well as the people who never seen it. And maybe they could have done something completely different, but maybe they weren't allowed to. I mean, like what we were saying before about like, creators wanting to do their own properties and then they go over to a big business, that's going to fund them. It's like, we're going to make it this way because we think it'll generate towards more of the viewers. It's like, you're playing to limitations, and maybe Paul Fig couldn't branch out what he wanted to. I mean, I know he was trying to make it like his own, and maybe he had to hold some things back. I don't know. I mean, we'll never know, to be quite honest, if this was what he wanted to intend to release. And I mean, it's out. It's not the end of the world. We're still alive. Ghostbusters has a decent rating on Rotten Tomatoes. So, I mean, if it doesn't, if it'll end up like Planet of the Apes, in which we try to reboot, it didn't work out. We'll wait another few years to see if we can do it again. Then you know what? I mean, it's a shame, but it just goes to show you that hey, they gave it a shot, and we'll just see how it turns out. And maybe if it doesn't work out, then you know what? At least they said that they didn't try with what they could do. So I'm glad that what they were able to do, that people do like it, and you know what? I'm perfectly fine with it.
And and also to be fair is, if you want my opinion, which was worse, I'm gonna tell you right now, hands down, Planet of the Apes, the Tim Burton version was horrible. And the strange thing is, to this day, I still can't believe that was a Tim Burton movie. There was nothing Tim Burton about that movie. So there's my opinion about that. Um, but yeah, I think that's the one thing that really bothered me about the movie is just that wow, we could have done so much with this film. And look, there were a lot of females that was proud of this film. A lot of females was happy they made it, and I'm glad that they enjoyed it. But I just felt they could have done a much better job of making it stand on its own. And that was the whole thing. It wasn't allowed to stand on its own, and it's unfortunate.
It is. It is unfortunate.
And before I bring this video up here, I'll see. Voice acting, has it gotten more recognizable by the masses?
Um, let's see. I mean, if you're referring to like the more mainstream people, and if you're referring to like voice acting, like the actual voice actors, I mean, I think that's still for the most part a very niche audience for people who love voice actors, but it has grown substantially over the years in which we do know about a lot of these voice actors, but for the general audience, they still, you know, um, yeah, for the general audience, it's like a lot of celebrities do voice in movies, and then the voice actors are just playing as like minor characters. But I think nowadays we're a lot more open to hearing voice actors be in more prominent roles, and it's not the same in America compared to Japan. It's like in Japan, voice actors are treated like celebrities. They even get like the red carpet, and they get like they're invited over to talk shows for interviews and stuff like that. But in America, it's like, oh, voice actors are just like they voice in those cartoons or whatever. It's like, no, I mean, voice actors are they're fantastic, they're talented, and they have to play like 20 different characters in different ways, while a celebrity can just do their voice and that's it for a
Yeah.
movie or something.
And
But
the reason why I brought this up, and I meant to bring this up when we last talked about this, and I didn't know this actually happened until um, Aaron, the Blockbuster Buster, brought it up in his videos. He does a fantastic job trying to give as much credit to voice actors as he can, and kudos to him. But I didn't know this happened. There was two things that happened. One was Chris Rock in his first attempt, and it was not a very good one in my opinion, of hosting the Academy Award. He basically put down voice acting. I don't know if
yeah,
you meant this.
I heard about that too. And there were I think it was Tara Strong and Rob Paulson were talking about that in Talking Tunes, in which like Chris Rock was saying like I made $1 million doing voice acting or whatever. It's voice acting is easy. It's like he was like just talking about like voice acting in a sense in which like, oh, it's just nothing. It's like voice acting is a lot harder than you think. And it's like, oh, Chris doesn't have to worry about it because, he's a celebrity. They just hired him for, oh, we're just going to have you voice as this character and you're just going to need to do your voice. It's like, there's more to it than that. But I did hear about that, or he was dissing the voice actors. Yeah, that wasn't, that wasn't good.
Yeah, it wasn't good at all. And I give Aaron credit because he proved there's a lot of voice actors who I follow. Like the girl who played Penny in Inspector Gadget, and she has a long list of work, and I didn't even recognize her voice. But when they put it together, I said, yeah, she's been around the business for a long time. The woman who's still working at the age of 90 who did the Rocky and Bull, who did I think played
Oh, Joy
Bullwinkle,
Forte. Yeah.
and she's still doing. I mean, God bless her. I mean, I would have been retired by now, but she loves what she does. And when you love what you do, you just don't stop. Um, but he also mentioned something that really saddens me, and I know you heard about this: the passing of Chucky, the voice of the person
Oh
who did
yeah,
the Chucky.
Yeah. Christine Cavanaugh. Yeah, she passed away a few years ago.
And I'm like, wow, that barely got mentioned, and he did a heartfelt tribute to her. But again, it was like I saw a small clipping of it, but you didn't hear any major news or anything. It's like, really, we're not gonna, she has contributed so much to our craft, and we're not even going to recognize that for that. And I always felt that's kind of a slimy way of not giving recognition. It wasn't even an Academy Awards. I mean,
Yeah, and not to
I
mention
mean,
that Jack Riley, who was the voice of Stu Pickles, he passed away a couple of days ago. And
yeah, I mean, really,
yeah, I mean, with the exception of
that
maybe a
happened.
few, um, news articles, it's like it hasn't even been mentioned on TV, and there's no mention of it on like the radio. I mean, nothing.
Wow. I mean, how is that possible?
I
I
mean,
mean, how is that
if
possible?
a
I mean,
major celebrity passes away, yeah, I mean, it makes all over the news. But if a voice actor passes away, you see a few articles online, and that's pretty much it.
and can we give these guys credit and acknowledge that? Look, it's not easy for me to because I'm doing different takes on rereads. That's just rereads, telling a story that's like NPR style, public domain stories, and that's not an easy feat to do. I can only imagine what these guys had to go through, how they prepare themselves for a character to do, whether it's a superhero character or just a general cartoon role. It is not an easy feat at all, and for them to do that, it takes a lot of skill, a lot of talent, and a lot of patience. And for them to not get recognized, because I don't think people realize that the guy who voiced Scrooge McDuck had passed away not too long ago.
Yeah, I know about that, and again, not a lot of mention.
And I mean, that's why I wanted to bring it up. But it's like, has we are we really got have we really just overlooked and not appreciate the talent that these voice actors do on a daily basis,
You know,
or has it really improved?
it's. I mean, like I said before, the general audience don't really consider that, but people like us, people like us who really appreciate voice actors. I mean, the numbers have been growing for many, many, many years, and going back to what I was saying before about like voice actors, playing all these different characters, and about how much of an impact it can leave on a person. When I was like I said before, waiting online for meeting up with Tara Strong. I mean, a whole bunch of people were waiting in line for 2 hours just to meet up with her. And when they finally got to meet her, everybody was excited. I mean, I already told you about the guy with the curly hair and the guitar. I already told you about the brony who had a whole bunch of dolls and stuff like that. There was a family right behind me, a little girl with her mom waiting to meet up with her, and she had a Twilight Sparkle doll. And, it's like the general audience may not appreciate voice actors because they just voice in cartoons or whatever. It's like, but people like us, we're a niche audience that continues to grow, and we appreciate voice actors, and that's why voice actors are able to come to conventions because there is an audience for people like them. There's a documentary about them. There's an independent movie about voice actors, about the behind the scenes of becoming a voice actor called um, what was it called again? I think it was called In a World or something. But yeah, I mean, voice acting has gotten a much bigger appreciation over time. Like people who want to become voice actors, they have a much better opportunity to do it than like 10 years ago. So yes, the audience for voice actors, like the niche audience, has started to grow. But I think it'll be a matter of time in which the general audience will start to appreciate them more. Just like in Japan, in which they treat voice actors like celebrities. But then again, for voice actors, sometimes it's a good thing because they don't have to worry about paparazzi and propaganda and whatever. It's like there was a time in which Roger Bumpus, the voice of Squidward, he was arrested because he was driving under the influence, and he was at risk of losing his job.
And he didn't, but he said he was thankful. He said if I was a celebrity, I would have been scrutinized like a whole bunch more. And even for voice actors who are only recognized for their voices, like they can be able to go out without being messed around with like people like paparazzi and stuff like that. It's like they could just live normal lives. And sometimes it's a blessing and sometimes it's a curse. It's like we know about the voice actors because we do a lot of research about them. We are huge fans of their work, but the general audience doesn't really seem to know about them because we don't see a lot of them on camera. We just see them, we just hear about them. There are a lot of voice actors who do on camera stuff, like for Rob Paulson, he's done a few on camera stuff like on Big Time Rush, and Tara Strong did the same thing. Debbie Derryberry, the voice of Jimmy Neutron, was in a few episodes of iCarly, and a whole bunch of things. So, the point is that maybe the general audience may not appreciate voice actors, but the audience who do love voice actors are really passionate about them.
I agree. And you know what? I let it be known right now. You guys, who does that in the business, you guys do great work. Know that there's a fan base who appreciate you, and will miss you when you guys are gone. That is something that I'm always taking in consideration. And again, I just wish that there was more recognition, and if anything else, at least from the academy, at least the actors who does performance, at least also do the one that does it behind the mic. It's not too much to ask, you know.
Sure, sure.
You know. So let's get to this video, and I know you got things to do, so I'll let you go after that. I actually changed up the video because this one's actually more interesting.
Okay.
Because this is from the Riches. I hope I'm saying that name right. And it's kind of interesting because the topic they're bringing up, I flat out refuse to watch Disney's Anne Frank.
Okay.
And I might just call it like a now. It's also one of the reasons why, and surprisingly enough, I thought the film was good, but I understand why Disney wants to sweep it under the rug too. And I'll let the video do the talking, because when you think of Disney princesses, what's the one thing they actually leave out? And she actually is a real princess. And there was actually a sequel that tried to correct it, but just backfired.
Okay.
What movie do you think I'm talking about?
Hmm?
Not that one. Not that one. Hold on, I'm coming.
Sorry. Don't worry about it. It's okay.
Okay. I'm just waiting for. I think I still got. No, that's not. No, I didn't paste it. I didn't copy it. All right, hold on. That's why it played that way. I think I. Let me see if that is. I think I made it erase the RL by accident. Let me add this to the player. Let me try again. Paste. Search. There we go. All right, now we got it. I've still got what rule Nickelodeon for some reason. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Can you hear me? Okay, I gotta figure out how to get off my channel. Sorry about that. I'm trying to get this off. It ain't let me get it off. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna start again. I still got Nickelodeon. Why did that give it to me? All right, let me try one last time.
Well, if we can't, then we can always save it for the next time.
I can get it. It's just here. It's just for some reason it's not. Let me get it in there for odd reasons. Unable to load video. I noticed that. All right, let me try again. Oh, that's why. Okay, now I see what happened. And now, because what happened was there was two ERLs in one box.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, that happens sometimes when you don't when you accidentally sometimes you copy and paste two ERLs and not without taking or you put one ERL without realizing you got to take the other one out. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna reset this because that's what happened the first time because it cancels itself out. All right, and by the way, the title of this one is called 10 Popular Movies That Lied About History.
Okay.
So, and when you're dealing with true stories, events, you're gonna get that. There's just no way around that because you're dealing with historical events, and the only thing you
Mm-hmm.
gotta ask is just be as accurate as you can possibly can, without insulting. But sometimes, like with especially with Disney, you can get away with fairy tales because fairy tales you can rewrite it. And let's be honest, if you really want to be real, I'm actually kind of glad that Disney do rewrite fairy tales because the original version is darker and not appropriate for children.
Mm-hmm.
So for some odd reason, I'm gonna have to pick another video if this thing ain't gonna let me paste. It's not letting me do it for some odd reason. So I'm gonna have to pick another video. I wanted to too because this is actually a good video.
That's okay. I mean, like I said before, if you can't do it, then we could always wait for the next time.
It's unfortunate because I did had it. I don't know why it's not letting me pick it for some odd reason. Damn you! All right, but basically, I'll put it this way because I don't want to. That's actually the video I want to show you. So I'll put it this way: the reason why I won't ever watch the animated version of say like Disney's Pocahontas. No, I'm sorry, Disney's Anne Frank, because Anne Frank is based the final days of a Jewish girl who was captured and put in a concentration camp. And the diary that she had left behind really recounts her experience during the Holocaust. An expiring diary that inspired tons of movies. Basically basing on the stuff that happened, which led to her being in a concentration camp. She didn't survive, of course. Now, Disney made an animation film. I believe it was straight to DVD. But with that being said, it's not exactly, how can I put it this way? It's not exactly the kind of thing you want to make for kids because A, you're changing history. In this, she survived the Holocaust. That was their first mistake. It's like doing, you ever seen those Titanic animated movies?
Yeah.
It's an insult. It's an insult towards the girl's legacy. It's an insult towards their history. It's just an insult towards what that girl went through, and the death she and her last days. And this is something that Disney have tended to do wrong a lot with actual historical events. The same thing with Pocahontas. Now, Pocahontas is actually a good movie. There's just one problem though. And all you need to do is look at some old clippings of Cisco and Ebert and it explains why. It's very uncomfortable because if you know the history, Pocahontas was a real princess from an Indian tribe. And I wouldn't say they got a lot of stuff wrong, but they mix in fantasy with historical events, and that's a slippery slope. To put it in perspective, Disney did their best to try to cover that up, or at least sweep it on the rug that it didn't happen. It did happen, but they tried to sweep it under the rug and pretend it didn't happen. Oh, actually, here it is right here. I'm gonna pause it here because it just showed up here. It says 10 popular movies that lied about history. Now, to Disney's defense, I don't think they lied about it, but it's like the Song of the South. Have you seen the Song of the South?
I have heard about it, but I haven't seen it.
I put it this way: it's very uncomfortable for anyone, black or white, to sit there and watch them make light of slavery. That's a real. That's why the Song of the South is not deemed very good right now,
Mhm.
and why they tried their best to try and discontinue the movie from being distributed, because it is in many ways. You sit there and you're like, you're trying to make a light that slavery was a good thing, and it wasn't, and that's why that film got ridiculed a lot over the years. More so than the scarecrows and Dumbo, because it really is no, it's no hiding it. He's making light of slavery as this is a good thing, and it was in happy times, and you get what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
That's what why some of these films that comes out they lie about history, because one is the propaganda. They wanted to tell you that not everything is all bad, fun and roses, and you also have the other ones that are animated films that are supposed to teach kids, but it actually doesn't give you the accurate depiction of what goes on. It's that
Mm.
deep.
Yeah.
Come up
I see.
with the top 10 movies that lied about history. And for the record, I know people ask me tons of time about the Titanic movie that James Cameron made. There's a difference between historical events and historical fiction. Titanic is historical fiction. The only thing that actually happened was the boat sunk. The characters in there was not real. Why James Cameron can get away with making a film like the Titanic the way he did. He made a tragic love story. He didn't make a true story. That's the difference.
Mhm.
So let's just see what the Richards have to say about the top 10 popular movies that lied about history. And for the record, I may stop from time to time to give you your thoughts on what they just said. Do you agree or disagree? And hear what you have to say about what has been said in the video.
Okay.
All right. Okay. All right. It's funny. That film was nominated for a lot of awards. It won four, including Best Picture. I never once thought that was a true story.
Nah, me neither.
So that's kind of strange how they actually said a lot about history when I don't think anybody who actually look at Gladiator and say, yeah, this is based on a true event. I mean, it's a good film. Don't get me wrong. I liked it. I know some people say it's overrated, but it was a great film. And it's one of the very few films that came out in January that was still remembered to the point where they won the Academy Award the following year. But I never thought it was being a true story, though.
Yeah, I
I
didn't think.
really didn't.
Yeah, me neither.
That's kind of weird because I didn't think they'd be on this list. I knew about the certain characters, certain historical factors about some of the people they posed based on, but I never really. That's like saying God of Egypt was based on a true event. We don't know that ain't true. But this one I'm interested. Elizabeth, the Golden Years, because there was so many movies about the Virgin Queen that I just think is any of them based on the actual Queen Elizabeth that we know in real life, or they're just making something up that's better suits them. So I'm kind of curious about the Golden Age, because people were very upset about this film because of the historical accuracy. So I'm kind of curious what they have to say about this one. Okay, this is why when you gotta understand when they say based on a true story, doesn't mean it's always true. I'm glad they actually brought that up because this has actually ticked off a lot of people, both in the historian side and also in the movie side who knows history. Again, Elizabeth's such a interesting, fascinating character. I'm kind of surprised people actually didn't look at the history before watching the movie a little bit. But then again, I don't think people actually want to do that much hard work. What's your feeling on
Well,
that one?
I've never seen the movie, so I don't have anything to say about it.
You seen Braveheart?
Yes.
You know there's so many confusions about this man that I'm not surprised it's on this list. I'm actually surprised it's actually high that it's not not in the top five because from all sides, from Scotland to London to the United States, said that this man was not portrayed right in this movie. And this is one of Mel Gibson's finest movies, but they said that he was more of a tyrant than a hero. So I'm kind of curious what these people have to say about this because I actually do like the movie, but yeah, this is going to be interesting. Okay, all right, that's a big mistake, man. How you messed that up?
I don't know.
That's why I had to stop and say, "Whoa, that's you." I don't even know. I would think you do a factual thing about that, but wow, I had to stop for think about this for a minute. You messed that up. 9 years old at the time. I want to know what other mistake Mel Gibson done. Okay, I remember I just said that the kill didn't came out until another 500 years. That's what he said. Am I right? Did
Yeah.
I heard that right?
Yeah.
So Mel Gibson just messed it up. He just made a movie and just went with it. But the 9 year old thing that bugs me.
Mhm.
That really does bug me. I guess Mel Gibson forgot about that part.
Yeah, I guess so.
What's the next one? John Bon Jovi. This is the rock singer, right? I didn't even know he was into movies.
I've never even heard of this movie.
Neither did I. And you look. I'm gonna show you a little something here before we continue. Poster, right?
No.
That's what I posted. The poster that it showed. The movie
Oh, oh,
poster.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, I
Did
just
that
saw it,
look,
yeah.
did that look like anything that it says true story to you?
No.
And Bon Jovi. Wow. I, I gotta hear this. Okay. Why do you even call this a true story?
It's not. I mean, if it's yeah, it's not even a true story.
You got the name of the ship wrong. You got the time of the timeline wrong. We didn't even go to war yet, and you said this is based on a true story.
I mean, I haven't,
Wow.
I've never seen this movie, so I can't really judge on its merits. So, I mean, yeah, it's kind of not very faithful.
Yeah. And here's the funny thing about this one: 300 is on this list. Why is this on this list?
Well, the reason why was because it was actually based off of the Spartan War, which, 300 men went off and they fought against the Persians. So, yeah, that actually did happen.
Not the way they showed this.
No, unfortunately, there wasn't a whole bunch of buff guys with their shirts off fighting the Persians.
I saw that movie and I'm like, for some reason I feel kind of dirty watching this movie. This movie was weird to me. It's a good movie, but it's just weird.
Hmm.
I mean, they got the enemy playing like the devil, trying to persuade the king. It was just weird. So I'm kind of curious what they have to say because again, this is one of those films that I didn't know what to think of it. True story, not the way they've written it anyway. Let's see what they have to say.
Well, I mean,
Uh,
we kind of already knew that, of course, they weren't like all buffed out and showing their muscles or anything like that.
yeah, we know that. I wasn't laughing at that. I'm laughing at what's coming up next. The Last Samurai, starring Tom Cruise. I'm actually kind of happy this was in there because a lot of people was mad about this movie because it's like, let me get it straight. You want me to believe that The Last Samurai was an Asian guy in a time where they didn't teach to anyone outside their own race? Dave
Hmm.
Chappelle made fun of this. I'm actually kind of curious of what they had to say because a lot of people was not happy with this. Yeah, this is going to be one of them. Okay, even she knows this is ridiculous. Well, she even said it like that. She just took his perfectly combed hair to this place to stop the samurai upright only to join him. She knows this is ridiculous.
I mean, it basically sounds like Dances with Wolves.
Like I
I mean,
said,
that's what the movie should have been called, Dances with Wolves in Japan.
oh man, the things Hollywood would do. That's why Paul Moody had said. I'm gonna say the PG version. Paul Moody said, "I can't wait to see my movie, The Last Black Man on Earth, starring Tom Hanks." uh, yeah. So much for based on a true story, huh?
Hmm.
And here's the Patriot. I'm having a funny feeling I see Mel Gibson a lot in this list. A lot of people were mad about the Patriot. The Patriot bombed in the box office because people didn't want to see this because they felt it was one, the British didn't want to be insulted because of the war they lost, and two, the people who in the United States felt that it was not going to be an accurate depiction, and then nobody wanted to bother with the colonial war films anymore. And they felt that the character was a misrepresentation even before this film was told based on a true story. So let me see what wrong they did in history. I'm curious. Okay, all right. Do you see why people not didn't want to see this movie?
I don't blame them.
And this is the thing. I knew that there was like a shady side to this character because again, they all because when you see Hollywood, it's always the opposite side. These are the bad guys. We're the good guys. That's not really always the case. And this is one of the reasons why. This is why, again, British didn't want to have nothing to do with this film. American had nothing to do with this film, and they have every right to be. And besides, there was another Patriot that came out that year, starred Steven Seagal.
I guess they got confused, huh?
No, they just said, "I'm gonna watch that. At least I know. At least I know what I'm getting into. I don't want to get. I don't want to talk about lie." Now, Oracle, they did talk about this. This is one of the film that gave um, Ben Affleck Best Picture, and a lot of people said they really over exaggerate how things went down. And Oracle was trying to get the people out of the country by making a fake film. That was the whole premise. They was gonna go in, make a fake film, and get out with the people who were stuck in that country. But they over exaggerate a lot of things. Even though this film is well done, I actually like this film. It's very good. The historical accuracy was overblown. So I'm not
Hmm.
surprised it's not to see this. So I want to see what if what I think it's true what they are saying here.
All right.
Okay. And again, like I said, overblown. The mission did happen. They went in there. You know, they said it was gonna make a movie that was the thing is this. They got the guys out, but this was but what you saw in the movie version was so overblown. That's like, yeah, you know you made a lot of this stuff up. You know that, and not giving Canada credit is kind of weird. That's kind of weird to me. But then again, many people don't believe Canada is part of America too. So, which they are. And here's the movie we were just talking about, Pocahontas. And here's the reason why Disney try to not acknowledge its existence. Where do you want me to start? All right. The one thing I would say Disney got right, Pocahontas did save John Smith from being having his head chopped off.
Hmm.
That is a historical fact. She has became at her age an ambassador. She did went to London. She was recognized by the king to not only save her people but to try to bring peace. However, this is the problem with Disney in a nutshell. And Disney, again, they're great at fairy tale telling. They
Hmm.
can take dark fairy tales that had no business being read to children, and make them kid friendly. And they still do it to this day. They know how to reimagine it, make it fresh and new. Sometimes it works. Sometimes so like Maleficent, which people say, oh, they're not keeping to the original. If you would have read the original Sleeping Beauty, you'll be thankful that they didn't stick with the original. But again, what they do well with fairy tales, they don't really translate well with actual historical events that leave a lot of people uncomfortable. Again,
Well, I
I
mean,
saw this.
it's true, but there have been a lot of animated movies that had came out that are based off of true events that are able to become a lot more faithful. Like, for example, Persepolis, in which the person who wrote the autobiography was heavily involved with the movie. And even going to
Mhm,
Disney, I mean, there's such thing as basing it off a true story and then having the fairy tale make it based off of true events or being inspired by true events. Like, for example, Beauty and the Beast, right?
mhm,
Famous fairy tale written by what was his name? A French author by oh yeah, Jean Marie Le Prince des Démons. And according
mhm.
to a documentary that I saw I think it was the other day, in which the author of the book was heavily inspired by a prince from France, or maybe not a prince, but a there was a man who suffered from a rare condition called hypertrichosis, in which his hair was covered in fur. No, he was covered in hair. His entire body was covered in hair, and they thought, and then he fell in love and he got courted to the regent of the Netherlands, Margaret de Parma, and she was a beautiful young woman, and he was a man who was covered in hair, but he was intelligent, and he was well educated, and he was, he and they were together and they fell in love and they had a family and stuff like that. But when Beauty and the Beast, when he wrote when he was inspired by that story, the author of Beauty and the Beast, he didn't say that, oh, well, this was based off of this man. I'm going to write it as an actual beast, and this woman, is just a peasant girl who, were her father, and she had like three sisters, and stuff like that. And then eventually she went over to meet the Beast and so on and so forth. It's like, Beauty and the Beast, the book, and, eventually when it was the Disney version, it wasn't saying like, oh, based off of the true story of Petrus Gonzalez. It's like,
No, no.
no.
There's a difference though. He modeled his character after that.
Yeah, and that's not
But
insulting. But saying Pocahontas was like, oh, this is based off of, the actual true story of Pocahontas and stuff like that. It's like, I'm sorry, but Pocahontas was not a teenager and she did not have, connections with, nature like that, in which she sang like Colors of the Wind or whatever, and she did not have a relationship with John Smith. So
and
yeah,
she didn't have
sorry.
model skin either, and that was the whole thing. Like you're kidding me, right?
Exactly.
That's, but the thing about it, and I'm glad you bring it up, is that again, I don't think Disney should be ashamed of Pocahontas. It's not one of their great crowning achievements. And again, they had high reviews, but I never forget this because it still burns in my mind as I saw it yesterday. When I saw Cisco and Eva review, they talked about the movie for no less than a minute. But you know what else they did? They tried to compare it to the other films that came out: Aladdin, Lion King, Little Mermaid. I'm like, something is nothing real because they don't normally do this. And they put it as number 5, and I'm like, why would they do that? And then I realized, oh, they're not really comfortable talking about this movie, and that was the whole thing. It's a very look. If you go right now into Disney right now and look at their princess lineup, Pocahontas is nowhere to be found. You'll find Alice in Wonderland before you find Pocahontas in the princess lineup. But it's kind of weird because Alice in Wonderland is not Alice is not a princess at all.
No, she's not. And even to be fair, Mulan isn't a princess either.
Hmm. So it's like, why is that this character is shunned? But as again, it's a historical event that many people don't feel comfortable with. It's based on actual. Thank you. Hmm. It's based on actual things, and it's like somebody just gave me a paper about Disney. Somebody got fired because of their age. This just happened. That's serious.
Mm.
Somebody just gave me the paper here. Um, but the point is that for some odd reason, Disney, what they succeed in the fantasy department, they seem to forget that it doesn't always work when it comes to real life um, figures of history. Which reason why Pearl Harbor, I think that's number 1, made this list because this is and by the way, for guys, Pearl Harbor is the reason why we got Transformers. Let that sink in.
Oh boy.
This is the reason why Michael Bay is what he is right now. Michael Bay wanted to be a serious director, and he made Pearl Harbor. The problem is he thought he could make Pearl Harbor like the Titanic. It didn't work. It failed and it failed hard. And the reason why is he over exaggerated a lot of stuff. Even when I saw the film, I said, "You know this didn't happen. None of this didn't happen. Why are you trying to do it? You're trying to be too patriotic," and it failed. Same time, this is number one because this is why we got Michael Bay. Michael Bay stopped trying to be a serious director and decided to do popcorn junk film because he knew it will make money. Not because they were great films. He know they're not great films. Transformers, who are we kidding? Transformers is popcorn film. They're junk food films. But it makes the studios money. And they're going to keep giving them to this film. This is the reason why. All you need to do is look at Pearl Harbor. And that's all you need to do. Let's look at Pearl Harbor. Let's see what thousand things wrong they did with this movie. All right. And that's just part. It was being nice. There's a whole lot of stuff that happened, like the bombing of a hospital that never happened, was ticked off Japan, and Japan would have to go there. We never bombed the hospital. Even Americans, even in some of the American historians said they never bombed a hospital. The fact that it's just a whole lot of stuff they did was wrong. And again, this is why we got Michael Bay.
Thanks,
Michael
Michael
Bay.
Bay, for ruining history.
uh, like I said, the Pocahontas thing, not surprising. But then again, when it comes to like that, you kind of expect it. Again, one thing, the reason why when I see based on a true event or based on a true story, I have to ask myself, just how much is it based on a true story? Is it 10%, 25%, 30%, 40%? Because I'm not buying that is 100%. I just can't buy it because again, Hollywood can't help themselves. They need to over exaggerate. They leave out, or they leave to make somebody a hero when they're really not a hero.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the whole thing. And again, it's just a little lesson we learned. The reason why I picked this is because again, it is about being careful. Because the reason why, I wanted you to hear this. This is why Hollywood needs to be a little bit careful. I understand they got to make money, but they got to be careful. And this is why I get on Tom Cruise when he did Valkyrie. I get on him a lot. And the reason why I get on him a lot is because he did a totally misrepresentation of what went down in attempts to get Hitler. I think she lost a microphone. I'm gonna see if she gets back. And so forth. She's still on the line, so let me see if she gets back. If you're there, let me know. Get back on it. I do want to end the show with you doing your honorable mention. But that's the. Oh, yeah, you are. I lost you there for a minute.
Yeah, it got my lost connection. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, we're about to close up in a bit. Again, I'm not gonna touch on the guy who got fired. He's 81 years old. Floyd Norman is what somebody wanted me to talk about. I'll probably do a separate video because we spend way too long on this one. But this is why Hollywood needs to be very careful when they take history because people do take that for facts, and it's just simply not true. You have to do your resource. You have to do your homework when you're watching these films because just because it says true story doesn't mean that it's actually true. Um,
Yeah, and I mean, a great example, in my personal opinion, and a movie that, when I first saw it, I was like, it was all right. But then when I found out more information about it, I kind of found it a bit insulting. Nacho Libre.
oh
Yeah, you know that movie with Jack Black and where he's like the wrestler, stuff like that?
yes.
That was actually based off of a true story. It was based off of a wrestler named Frey Tormenta. And it was an actual um, story of a Mexican who, he eventually turned over to becoming a monk because, at a time he was, he was he was going through like a rough patch in his life. He was drunk and, he was an alcoholic, and he eventually turned over to God and said, what should I do? And, he eventually became a monk in a monastery, and the monastery just wasn't doing very well, and he wanted to raise money for the orphans by, becoming a wrestler and raising money for the orphans so they can be having, better accommodations. And he did this on and off for 57 years. But instead,
Mhm.
because Jack Black was becoming so popular at the time with Shallow Hal and movies like that, they decided to make it into a comedy. And they decided to have Jack Black play as a Mexican and basically change the whole entire story. And yeah, I mean, by itself, the movie's fine. And they never really, I mean, his name is not Frey Tormenta. It's not, not fully saying like, oh, this is based off of the true story of him. But I remember when this movie first came out, they, interviewed him. They went over to his monastery and, they talked to him about his life and stuff like that. Like this was around the time when the movie was coming out. And I guess, a lot of people seem to have forgotten or maybe didn't even know that Nacho Libre was based off of an actual person. And when and there's, I mean, the movie is harmless enough, but I never really cared about it. I mean, I just found it to be insulting when I learned more information about it.
Exactly, because you're tampering with history, and basically, let's be honest, when stuff like that, that's just not even. Let's just call it like it is. You just rewrote history. That's what they did. They said, "Oh, I want to take this historical event, rewrite it, and then repackage it."
Yeah, and the thing is that he was still alive when they were doing this. I
Oh,
don't know
that's
if he
even.
ever seen the movie, and I don't know
I,
how he feels about it,
no, I,
but
I seriously doubt it because there's Pinch Adams, right?
oh, Patch Adams, yeah, yeah.
Pinch Adams. I seen the movie, and I at first I'm looking at the film and said, I don't know why the critics are so hard on this film. It seems very good. I understand that Wally Williams overacting. Then I saw the real Patch Adams, and then I realized how much inaccuracy they had with what actually happened, and that's like, wow, you couldn't tell us the actual story of this brilliant man. Instead, you had to over exaggerate and put stuff there that didn't happen just for dramatic or comedic effects.
Yeah, I mean the same thing with
Really?
Nacho Libre, in which a lot of the stuff that happened didn't happen. I mean, sure, the core about him wanting to raise money for the orphans, yes, that stuff was true, but all the other stuff they just made up.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, that's why again one of the main reasons why I brought this up is this is just a small example. This is these what they just said was a small tip of the iceberg. There's a whole example where this actually happened, where filmmakers actually rewritten stuff for the sole purpose of rewriting history. Period. And although Hollywood, we look at them as it's supposed to be for entertainment, you got to be very careful because again, you're dealing with stuff that historical events. People expect you to have some kind of accuracy and knowledge of what's going on. I give you a perfect example, and I don't want to hear about you can't do it without ruining the course of entertainment because people won't go see it. Spike Lee, and look, Spike Lee, he is a very controversial figure lately. There's a lot of stuff I don't agree with, but the one thing he got right, where you can honestly say, if you see this movie, You can actually compare it to the memoirs of this man. You can compare it with the historical events of this man, and you can say Spike Lee not only did his homework, gave total respect to one of the historical figures that still don't get respect by the United States government today, and that's Malcolm X.
Hmm.
That's his crowning achievement. His movie made me want to go read more into Malcolm X history. He didn't just make a movie about just to make a movie. He told you his life story the way it was supposed to be done. If there's some inaccuracies, absolutely. Like for instance, the height of Malcolm X versus Denzel Washington. And he fought long and hard to get this film, and he did not disappoint. And I remember when this film came out, I said he made it his business to say, listen, if you can spend 3 hours to watch JFK, you can watch this film for 3 hours because it's worth every single moment. This is part of history, and he really did his homework there. Instead of a guy who says, "Oh, I'm gonna take this piece of history, but I'll make up the rest because I want to make money." If that's all you're gonna do, don't make the movie. Please don't do it because that's just the reason why, and that's why. And what you have to do, I encourage you to look this up. Look up Disney's Anne Frank.
Is that the joke the nostalgia chick did about talking about the top 10 worst Disney sequels?
She mentioned it, and then there's some, and I think Enron had put him in his blacklist. That films he
Hmm.
want to see. But there's a reason I put it in my blacklist. I don't want to see because I know that's not the way it happened. That's not the way it goes down. That's why Titanic. And people should know when you see him talking mouse and rapping dog, you should know that's not the true story. But
No, it's not.
when you advertise the true story, you're insulting what actually happened to the victims of that boat. Period. Just by saying it's based on a true story, and that's how they advertise it. This is the real story of what happened at Titanic. Really, they had talking dogs and rapping, rapping dogs and talking mice. Really, this is the real story, right? And you did it twice. That's the whole crazy part. But that's the point. Um, Again, with animation, I understand you wanna. There's a difference between like HBO. They had like a historical animation. I don't know if you ever heard of it. They had like HBO Kids. I don't even know they're still around anymore.
HBO
The
Kids. No, I
HBO,
haven't heard. I've never heard of that. But I do
yeah,
remember
the
there was
HBO.
this one TV show on PBS called Liberty's Kids, in which it's
Mhm,
about these three kids who were journalists for Benjamin Franklin, and they would go around and they met up with a lot of the historical people from the Revolutionary War. And
mhm.
there was a lot of stuff that was made up, but at the same time, they taught you about some of the stuff that happened, like met up with the characters, tell you interesting facts and stuff like that. I've never seen the show, but I have heard about it, and
Well,
um,
it's historical fiction. That's what they call it. At least they made it
yeah,
be known.
it's historical fiction. The whole
Historical
point of it
fiction.
is that it's teaching kids about the Revolutionary War, and I'm like, okay. I mean, I've never seen it, but I have heard about it, and I looked into some of the pictures and stuff like that. It's like, okay, teaching kids about the Revolutionary War, that's cool.
Here's a little tidbit. If you ever get a chance, HBO Kids. There used to be a time where HBO tried to make it. I think it was this in New York. They split HBO to three different groups. Instead of being HBO 1, 2, and 3, they say HBO, HBO Plus, HBO Kids, HBO Signature. And each had a certain cater to a certain group of people. Like HBO Signature is pretty much mostly drama. HBO Kids catered to kids. And they had history, cartoon history. They did animation. They did something about Harry Tuckman. They did something about Rosa Parks. They did a lot of stuff. It's very good stuff. Ben Franklin, Thomas Edison, and they did a good job. And they made it be known that a lot of the stuff is basically historical fiction that is mean to we're going to explain these characters, but we keep in mind they can't tell you everything in 30 minutes. But it gave you enough to say, okay, now we tell you, now go up and look more about this, and you want information, look at these books. And by the way, we recommend you go to the library. They was encouraging kids to look up the history. All right.
I mean, I
Um,
remember when Titanic first came out. A lot
mhm.
of people wanted to do more research on Titanic. There were a lot more information about Titanic in the library, and I remember there was a lot more Titanic documentaries that were coming out. So, yeah, I mean, it encourages people to learn more history about the events that you see in the movies and in the TV shows.
Yeah, and that's what I feel that historical events or based on historical events should do. Um, One of my perfect example is Helen Keller. I heard of Helen Keller. I didn't know that she went through that struggle of being blind and deaf. She ever done to overcome it, and it was that HBO animated 30-minute show that I went on and found more stuff about her, and what she had done, and her teacher, who herself went through a lot of struggles, and that's how she was able to relate to Helen Keller, and how frustrated she ended up doing, and how she was able to communicate, despite her mental handicap. That's an inspiring story to me that I wanted to know more about, but I wouldn't probably give two craps about if it was done like Michael Bay did with Pearl Harbor. I saw Pearl. I didn't want to know nothing about it. I said, "This is Pearl Harbor. It can't be." I don't know. I mean, that's the whole thing, and this is why films like The Last Samurai, I felt insulting because you're telling me that it brings a perception that only a certain group of people did some stuff. That's the whole thing, and that's not true. A lot of people from all across the world had done very great things in the course of history. Like we didn't invent the paper. That's an Asian invention.
Yeah, the Chinese were the ones who invented paper.
Yeah. So, but you will never hear that because you would think it was all Americans. Like the most insulting film that was supposed to be based on historical events, which was BC. I think it was 2000 BC.
Oh, 10,000 BC.
I call it no thousand BC because it was garbage. When I saw a telescope that in a year that telescope shouldn't exist, when all of a sudden we had these big giant prehistoric saber-toothed tigers coming out of nowhere, to having boats walking from the snow all the way to the desert in less than 2 hours, something's wrong. Something's wrong. But people swear up and down. This is one of the reasons why we're seeing a lot of backlash now, more so now than ever before, with the way Egypt is represented, with the way certain characters are represented, and because it brings a wrong perception on history. And you don't want to rewrite history. You want to embrace history, and you want to represent it right. So where, I myself as the always want to say, you know what, that was great. I want to know more about this person. I want to know about this country, and do my research. Because I tell you this, um, like I said before, Malcolm X, great, well done. I didn't know Malcolm. They didn't teach Malcolm X in school. Martin Luther King they taught. Rosa Parks they taught. Harry Tubman. They didn't teach Malcolm X in school. I knew very little about the man until Spike Lee came along and introduced me to him, and then I really dove into the stuff that Spike Lee had brought out and how close knit it was. I'm like, wow, this more often. This is the history I should learn. If you disagree, please let me know.
Yeah.
So that's just my feeling. I think they should be more responsible for that. And that's the show. Because I know you've been here too long, and I say it's time to go. Before I let you go, you want to do any honorable mentions of your shows or anything you want to mention to the audience?
My shows, is in like my channel? Sure. You
Yeah.
can find me at YouTube. Just type in Old School Lane, and you can check out the videos and the podcast that we do. And one of which we have our good buddy, Jock Early over here that we've discussed about the Home Alone franchise with some jerk from Boston. We did that last Christmas. And me on Facebook, on Twitter, and you can check out my stuff at Manic Expression and on oldschoollane.blogspot.com.
That's great. That's great. And when is the next episode of Old School Lane?
Well, let's see. Well, just yesterday, I posted up a podcast about how the original Nicktoons influenced entertainment with Ashley Whittingkeller and Casey Reed from the Friday Night Nicktoons podcast. And next week, we're going to be having another podcast about how the original Nicktoons influenced pop culture with Matthew Klickstein and Cussing Gaines. And we'll continue on throughout the month of celebrating the three original Nicktoons in honor of his 25th anniversary. And then on September, we're going to be doing Carmen San Diego. We're going to be doing a Carmen San Diego retrospective.
Oh, goody. You want me to join for that one?
Well, I am planning on possibly doing a Carmen San Diego podcast, so yes, I would love for you to come in.
Let me know. I'll be more than happy to do that. And again, thank you very much for joining this extended mid-season finale. It's kind of amazing when you join the mid-season finale. I found out that YouTube once again changed their format. They put Hangout on YouTube Live. So again, I got to figure out what they're doing.
Right.
Always,
Right.
I don't know why they do this sometimes, but I'll figure it out. But again, we'll be back officially at the end of October. We'll be on hiatus. We will be back, however, on the end of October. Hopefully, I figure out what YouTube have done before then. But until then, you guys, you please be safe. And for God's sakes, if you're gonna play Pokemon Go, don't do it while you're driving, please. Don't make videos about you demonstrating how to play Pokemon Go while you're driving on the highway. All right, that's not cool.
Mm-mm. Not
Not
cool.
cool at all. That's why they're trying to ban it in New York. Please be reasonable. Be safe. That's all I ask. Patricia, thanks again. Thank you guys for joining us. And until next time, J77 saying take care, be safe, and I'll talk to you soon.
See ya.
All right.